This young man was reincarnated into another world, and he also had a system. But although it's a system, Hanju's system is very strange. Not only does it pretend to be a dice, but every time it rolls, the result is basically the same, like it's cheating. This time, the reward it gave Hanju was to live to over 100 years as a virgin, despite the fact that he died. Hanju was so desperate that he angrily shouted, "Ah, damn it! Who wants to be lonely for their whole life?" 10 years had passed, and this useless system hadn't given him any good talents. He was reincarnated, but his life was still a mess. Although he complained like this, the system was Hanju's only hope. He would keep shaking it, never giving up, and he would definitely be able to cultivate. The next morning, Hanju began to exercise, collecting the chi of heaven and earth to gain good luck. He didn't know what kind of surprise the system would bring him today. 1,000-year useless spiritual root talent. This shock made Hanju feel as if he had been stabbed 10 times. Although he felt somewhat disheartened, he was still angry. But there was one more chance to shake for innate luck, so Hanju endured the pain and continued shaking. Unexpectedly, this time he rolled 4 super innate lucks: Peerless, Destiny Swordsman, Unmatched Agility, and the descendant of the Immortal Emperor. Needless to say, Hanju was stunned. Before, he hadn't rolled anything. This time, he rolled 4 at once. He rolled on the grass, enjoying the joyful feeling. Indeed, when good things happen, the spirit feels lighter. Next, he just needed to focus on rolling the spiritual root talent to complete the combination. With these 4 exceptional lucks, he would shake for several decades with even more enthusiasm. After 2 lifetimes, Hanju was determined to live brilliantly. He couldn't spend his whole life working like a slave in this medicine garden. That afternoon, everyone was gathered to meet the 2 immortals from Yuling sect. A man and a woman walked in, both with expressions that said, "I'm your boss." The servants below looked up, their necks almost aching. Is this what immortals look like? It's obvious they're powerful. I wish I could become like them. Hanju sneered, "Wait until I awaken my supreme spiritual root. Those people will be nothing more than mosquitoes." The man said that from today onward, he would be in charge of guarding the herb garden, and the servants were not to disturb their cultivation. Hanju felt confused after hearing this. What's going on with Iron Elder? The woman then said that recently, some demon cultivators had broken into the sect, so Iron Elder had to go out on business. They would take his place to protect the herb garden and everyone. Hanju breathed a sigh of relief. At least until I awaken my supreme root, there will be someone to protect my life. From the beginning until now, I've just been doing some boring things. In reality, the cultivation world is not a peaceful and beautiful place. Fortunately, I've kept my life. And the system is my protective talisman. I wonder if this system is still usable. But it's been 2 years already. And up until now, not even a high-level spiritual root has appeared. Hanju gradually lost his confidence. He longed for cultivation but only had a medium-level spiritual root. Still, he had made up his mind to reach the peak and become a legend in this lifetime. While he was pondering, a voice came from outside, "Hey, everyone stop what you're doing and go meet the master." Outside, Iron Elder stood in front of all the servants and animals. He had been gone for 2 years, but there hadn't been any issues with their work, so they were all happy. Everyone greeted Iron Elder with smiling faces. It's what we, humble ones, should do. It's an honor to relieve the master's worries. Hanju rolled his eyes again, a bunch of sycophants. No matter how sweet their words are, Iron Elder won't give them more food. While mocking Iron Elder, Hanju was called forward by him, along with some young people. As they walked, they curiously asked what was going on. Unexpectedly, Iron Elder actually wanted to check their spiritual root talents. Hanju was puzzled. He had never allowed the servants to cultivate before. Why suddenly check them? Suddenly, he noticed the bloodstains on Tai Lao's collar. While still thinking, it was Hanju's turn to inspect. His gaze seemed as though it could devour him alive. Hanju extended his hand, sweat pouring down like rain. Did this old man want to turn them into medicinal materials or something? No spiritual root. Next. After Hanju finished the inspection, he breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, he hadn't used the cultivation system. The next person actually had spiritual roots. Tai Lao didn't punish him, instead taking him out of the valley and accepting him as a disciple to cultivate. The boy, Zhang O, was ecstatic and immediately agreed. The others congratulated him. In the future, he will be a different kind of immortal from us, really lucky. Only Hanju had a dark expression. Once they left this valley, they might never see the sun again. Another 3 years passed, and a long howl echoed from Hanju's home, signaling good news. He rolled on the ground, cheering excitedly. This time, he rolled out 6 high-level attributes, the 6 essences of the Tao, including wind, fire, water, earth, wood, and lightning, an all-encompassing spiritual root. After suffering for these decades, Hanju still hadn't started cultivating. It was all Tai Lao's fault. No one knew how Zhang O was doing. He hadn't seen him for 3 years. Seeing Hanju troubled by this, the system prompted to help him create a barrier, making it so no cultivator could detect any changes in him. Finally, the system did something useful. Hanju immediately agreed. From today onward, he officially embarked on the path of cultivation, aiming to become the greatest in the world. A dazzling light appeared. Moments later, Hanju found himself in another space-time, and the system summarized Hanju's life in a few sentences. The key was inviting him to choose his cultivation path, as he possessed 6 mysterious powers of heaven and earth. Hanju didn't know whether to choose sword cultivation, lightning cultivation, wood cultivation, fire cultivation, water cultivation, earth cultivation, or wind cultivation. Hanju spent years before rolling out the complete 6 reincarnation paths, and now, to only choose one cultivation path seemed not worth it. After thinking for a while, he decided to choose sword cultivation. A straight man must wield a sword to be powerful. The system began to cultivate, and Hanju felt as though his entire body was immersed in the flow of energy. The system also reminded him to take care of himself from now on, because once he embarked on the cultivation path, 1,000 years would pass like a dream, and there would be no turning back. From now on, he must work hard to improve his attributes. The system interface also changed, and Hanju had no time to adapt, but this relationship interface seemed somewhat new. He tried to click into it to take a look. To his surprise, the first one to appear was Iron Old Man. He really hated Hanju. If he had known Hanju had spiritual roots, he surely wouldn't have let him off. Hanju was so angry that he spat blood. He had worked hard to grow medicine for him since birth, yet he harbored hatred for him. But after thinking for a moment, he realized that the old man must have developed a grudge because his parents abandoned him. In recent years, he had been running all over the place, and Hanju could now safely focus on his cultivation. Time was of the essence, so Hanju immediately began to improve his cultivation. Once he reached the 9th level of chi refining, he would leave this place. Let's see what that old man, Iron Old Man, could do with his chi refining at the 7th level. When he put his hands together and focused on cultivation, Hanju could see bubbles of all sizes. They seemed to be spiritual energy, but he could only sense wind, earth, water, and wood. Though he couldn't see lightning and fire, Hanju decided to use these 4 types of spiritual energy to cultivate for now. The system gave him 2 options once he embarked on the cultivation path. One was to become a peerless genius and show off, which would grant him a chi refining artifact. The other was to humbly cultivate, which would unlock the ability to conceal his cultivation and spiritual roots. Without much thought, Hanju chose the second option. He worked hard to cultivate every day. 2 years quickly passed. Hanju was still fully dedicated to growing herbs. He hoped the spiritual herbs would grow quickly so he could benefit from them. His 4 types of spiritual energy had all reached the 7th level of chi refining. The effect on promoting the growth of the herbs was significant. Hanju looked around, hoping no one would notice him here today. Hanju returned with his basket. A few girls were focused on eating dragon fruit by the river, and when they saw him, they screamed, "Oh my God, He's so handsome and knows how to grow herbs. I wish I could take him home as my husband. They used to not even glance at him, but ever since he started cultivating, his charm had become evident. Stealing the spotlight wasn't a good thing. Why didn't the system help him hide it? As he was troubled, Xing Hongchuan suddenly blocked his way and asked him to come with her into the woods. Hanju followed her, feeling confused. She has been helping Iron Old take care of the herb garden all these years, and hasn't interacted with someone like you, a mere medicine slave. What does it mean to suddenly call you over? Hanju then asked the system, only to be surprised that her affection for him had reached 2 stars. His mind was in a complete mess. The two of them had never had any physical contact. How could she possibly be interested in him? Hanju held his head. This is bad. This time it's a real mess. It must be that alluring power at fault. If she uses him as a furnace for dual cultivation, it might be pleasurable, but also very painful. Xing Hongchuan saw him holding his head and took the initiative to speak, trying to relax him. I'm not trying to make things difficult for you. I just want to ask if you're willing to be a medicine slave for the rest of your life. Hanju didn't understand what she wanted, scratched his head, and pretended not to know, saying he wasn't sure what to do. Xing Hongchuan then made a suggestion. As long as you help me with one thing, I'll take you to practice immortality and free you from your mortal identity. Haha, I don't know what the fairy wants me to do. Hanju thought she would ask him to do something very difficult, but it turned out to be something far beyond his imagination. That is, to steal Iron Old's alchemy formula, and then she would take him to join the demon sect, even possibly making him her husband. Hanju was stunned on the spot. He didn't expect that there was a demon cultivator infiltrating the herb garden in Yuqing sect. Now he was in a dilemma. Offending Yuqing sect would lead to being hunted down to the ends of the earth. But if he refused, Xing Hongchuan would silence him. In this deep mountain forest, even if he screamed, no one would come to rescue him, and Iron Old wasn't around either. Xing Hongchuan seemed very confident that he wouldn't say a word and even gave him time to think. Both were at the 7th layer of qi refining, but Hanju had never learned spells, nor did he have any magical artifacts, so he couldn't fight her for now. So, he pretended to be a foolish boy to escape. I don't know where that thing is, and you have the same sect members guarding Iron Old's pavilion. Suddenly, Xing Hongchuan turned around sharply, forcefully pressing Hanju's head to the ground without mercy. Of course, it's in Iron Old's pavilion. That old man is out looking for longevity herbs and probably won't be back for years. As for the guards, you don't need to worry about that. At that time, I'll lead them away. It shouldn't be hard for you to find the alchemy formula, right? As for Hanju's lack of cultivation, she had already prepared a pill to help him unlock his spiritual roots, making it easier for him to act. Hanju cursed inwardly. This is really poisonous. What kind of pill is this? She directly shoved the pill into his mouth, forcing him to swallow it. Then she leaned in close to Hanju and praised him. Good, don't worry. After it's successful, I'll pamper you as my husband. Back home. Hanju tried to figure out how to vomit out that pill. Drive it out of the body through the system. He wiped his mouth, filled with hatred, but now he didn't know whether to follow Xing Hongchuan's advice. The people of the demon sect are ruthless. Even if he helps her, there is no benefit, and he might even get bitten back. In the end, the system gave a choice. Help Hanju handle this situation. If he steals the pill recipe, he will gain Xing Hongchuan's trust and get 5 hate stars from Yuqing sect. If he doesn't help, he will receive the swordsmanship of the Zhu Jishin sword. As long as he doesn't help her, he can gain a new skill, and the mission won't need to be said. Hanju would naturally choose the second option. That night, Hanju waited for Xing Hongchuan. She had already found out that the pill recipe was in Old Iron's study. Once she lures the guards away, he can sneak in quietly. Before leaving, she specifically reminded. Remember, there is a formation in the pavilion. If anything goes wrong, Old Iron will return immediately. There's no time to waste, you need to hurry. An hour later, Hanju arrived at the pavilion. Looking at the guard who was killed with his eyes still open, Hanju sighed. Xing Hongchuan said she had lured him away. But she directly killed the person. She truly is a female demon. Soon, the voices of other guards were heard. She ran that way, hurry and chase to inform Old Iron. Hanju took the opportunity to sneak into Old Iron's study. Compared to his house, this place was 10 times bigger. Hanju searched for a while but found nothing. Obviously, Xing Hongchuan was quicker than him in sneaking in to find the pill recipe, so why bother recruiting him? There must be something wrong with her head. Hanju picked up a golden brush, his eyes sharp like a knife. People are really different. The old man's pen is made of gold, while we drug slaves can only use the cheapest things. Truly a malicious old landlord. What are you talking about? Did you find the pill recipe? Xing Hongchuan appeared behind him, scaring Hanju. For some reason, his voice became weak. Not yet, there are too many things here. Are you being lazy? Xing Hongchuan didn't listen to Hanju's excuse. She didn't want to keep playing this cat-and-mouse game with him. After all, her hands were already stained with too much blood. Killing one more wouldn't be a big deal. Hanju quickly stepped back. He accidentally bumped into the bookshelf. The white bottle fell from above onto the floor. It smashed to pieces, revealing what was inside. Is this a pill recipe? The two of them stared at the scroll that rolled onto the ground. With a dark expression, Hanju cursed inwardly. This old man actually hid something so important in such a dangerous place. Seeing Xing Hongchuan rush up, Hanju panicked. If she got the pill recipe, she would definitely kill him. To his surprise, she actually leaped onto Hanju, and her tone was completely different from the murderous one earlier. It really is you, truly my lucky charm. I didn't expect someone as honest as you to create romance. Han Ju handed the pill recipe to Xing Hongchuan, while also discarding the divine sword of absolute finger. But he felt her aura was unstable. Probably because she had used up a lot of energy earlier to distract those guards. Hanju grabbed the nearby inkstone and used all his strength. He wanted to give her a heavy blow. But just at that moment, a force attacked them. The pill recipe fell into Old Tai's hands, and Old Tai was angrily standing at the door. Dare to pry into my pill recipe, you're really audacious. Xing Hongchuan was a little surprised to see him back earlier than expected. It turned out that Old Tai had returned long ago, but was waiting for her to reveal her true form. He had his eyes on her as soon as she arrived. Over the years, the other disciples had no interest in coming to the medicine garden, only these two were definitely up to something. Old Tai's attack was fierce, seemingly in control of the situation. As expected, Xing Hongchuan had consumed quite a bit of energy after distracting the guards. Trying to seize the pill recipe now was difficult, escaping was the only viable option. It would also be hard for Old Tai to catch up. Because these demon cultivators had created the perfect escape technique after being hunted by the Yuling sect for thousands of years. It was only then that Hanju woke up in pain, pretending to hold his head. The master has finally returned. I almost lost my life at the hands of the female demon. Old Tai still thought Hanju was working with her. But after listening to his story, he realized that it was like this. You were also just used by her. She wanted to cultivate you into a husband, and you actually believed that. After being reprimanded, Elder Tai told Hanju to go home and sleep. The system delivered the Juji divine sword to Hanju as promised. In the end, he finally had a way to fight. 2 years passed quietly, but Hanju kept growing. Now he could even chop firewood using spells, and his swordsmanship had reached a usable level. Today was his last time chopping firewood. This herb garden could no longer help him cultivate. Over the past 2 years, Hanju had cultivated all 4 types of spiritual roots to the 9th layer of the Qi refining realm. As long as he cultivated the thunder and fire elements, he could break through to the foundation establishment realm. But there was no thunder or fire spiritual energy around the herb garden, so he had to leave. As he walked, Hanju thought about how to quietly leave this place. Recently, Elder Tai had been appearing less and less. His cultivation had stagnated at the 7th layer of the Qi refining realm. Not everyone could break through as easily as he did. This was the difference between having a system and not having a system. The goal of this life was to extend his lifespan. To become stronger, he had to leave here. After staying in the herb garden for 20 years, Hanju was determined to leave decisively and never look back. This herb garden, because Elder Tai was an outer disciple of the Yuqing sect. They were considered to be part of the Yuqing sect, so he decided to come here to cultivate. Except for Elder Tai, no one knew his identity. Seeing Hanju's unfamiliar face, the two guards asked for the sect's token. Now he could proudly introduce his identity to the world. I am Hanju, a 9th layer Qi refining loose cultivator, and I wish to join the Yuqing sect. Hearing 9th layer Qi refining, the two guards hurriedly went to report. Suddenly, a voice came. No need to report. I have matters to attend to outside. If I heard correctly, you are a 9th layer Qi refining cultivator who wants to join our sect? Yang La was a deacon of the Yuqing sect. Due to the infiltration of demonic cultivators in recent years, he needed to check Hanju first. Please use your spiritual power. Hanju nodded. He then summoned the Juji divine sword. He gathered the power in his 2 fingers, and with a light swing, a portion of the distant mountain was immediately cut off. The 3 of them stared wide-eyed, stunned. Did he really only have the cultivation of the 9th layer of Qi refining? Yang La noticed that what he saw earlier was not purely swordsmanship but a spell. It seemed somewhat unusual for his cultivation level, but the purity of the spiritual energy was definitely not from a demonic cultivator. So he took Hanju to register his identity. From now on, you will be their outer sect disciple. On the way, Hanju asked some questions about this place. The Yuqing sect has over 2,000 outer sect disciples. However, to enter the inner sect, one must reach the foundation establishment realm. Every 3 years, the sect holds a competition for inner sect disciples, and the top 3 will receive foundation establishment pills to help break through the 9th layer of Qi refining and reach foundation establishment. Inner sect disciples live in a small world, and even Yang La is unsure of how many of them there are. After asking a few more questions, Hanju finally reached his main destination. Excuse me, does the Yuqing sect have a place to cultivate thunder fire spiritual energy? Yang La didn't understand why he was surprised that Hanju had a thunder root. But there is no cultivation place for outer sect disciples. If you need it, you must request permission from the Taoist priest, and maybe you can be an exception to join the inner sect. It turned out that thunder roots were rare, so the sect would specially cultivate them. Hanju then demonstrated some thunder techniques to Yang La to prove he had a thunder root. Brother Yang, please help me with the recommendation. If I can join the inner sect, I will never forget your kindness. Yang La hurriedly took him to register with the Taoist priest. An elder sat there, asking Yang La to first check his spiritual roots. He looked ordinary, but Hanju couldn't discern his cultivation level. However, when it came to checking spiritual roots, Hanju only worried about his 6 spiritual roots being exposed. If that happened, many troubles would follow. He could only act humble. So, Hanju only revealed his 3 spiritual roots. Unexpectedly, just having 3 spiritual roots made him stand out. Yang La gave him a lot of items and spirit stones and even arranged a brand new luxurious room for him. When leaving, Yang La especially reminded him to rest and said he would inform him of any news. Hanju sighed. Now, from being a free servant to being placed on the special care list, the pressure was a bit much. However, Yang La had selected a room filled with fire spiritual energy for him, which wasn't too bad. Speaking of cultivation, this can be considered a good thing. Usually, cultivators only practice one technique, and they only have one attribute. If someone wants to cultivate 6 attributes, like you, they are destined to put in 1,000 times more effort than others. Fortunately, you have the abundant resources provided by the system, so you don't feel tired while cultivating. Also, the feeling of extending your lifespan is truly the best. Hanju has been using the system for many years now, and his ultimate goal has always been immortality. Before, you didn't cherish your body, staying up late watching adult films, wasting your youth, and only realizing the value of life after contracting a terminal illness. This life may not offer anyone a third chance, so in this life, Hanju doesn't need fame, wealth, or beautiful women, he just wants to live a little longer. Hanju was immersed in cultivation. One day, Yang La opened the door and announced, "Sorry to keep you waiting for half a year. The Grand Elder is back." Yang La felt his aura was much stronger than before. "And his clothes are still the same." She froze. "Could it be that you've been cultivating all this time, never leaving this room?" Hanju then woke up, confused, and asked, has it been half a year already?" Hanju followed Yang La to meet the elder. The old secretary kept praising him. "Your spiritual power has increased significantly. You not only have great aptitude but also work diligently." Yang La hoped he could become an elite disciple of the sect. "Your temperament is not bad, not inferior to inner sect disciples, and you're almost catching up with elite disciples." The Grand Elder, with his round head and big belly, praised Hanju. "If you want to join the inner sect, you'll need to find an inner sect master. Every peak has 18 elder disciples. If an elder likes you, you can directly become an inner sect disciple. If not, Hanju would have to participate in the inner sect competition to strive for an early breakthrough into the foundation establishment stage." He nodded, his gaze firm. On the way, the Grand Elder explained the teaching elders of each peak. Some were competitive, some practiced humbly, and others went out on missions every year. The most important thing was to decide which cultivation style Hanju wanted to follow. He didn't like bustle and didn't want to stand out too much. Therefore, choosing a humble cultivation style would be best. As soon as he finished speaking, the Grand Elder stroked his chin and looked at him, smiling meaningfully. Just so happens that Jade Wu Peak is perfect for you. You'll definitely like this place." On the way, a few red-headed cranes flew by, their shadows covering both of them, leaving Hanju quite surprised. Ahead was the territory of the Jade Clear sect's inner sect. The tall, majestic mountains stretched on endlessly. Watching the disciples flying with swords, Hanju couldn't help but feel envious. The Grand Elder continued to walk while introducing several places. For example, the center of the Jade Clear sect is the place for receiving missions, benefits, and trading. Hanju had always underestimated the strength of Yuqing sect. He thought they were just a small sect from an ancient costume martial arts drama. Eventually, they reached Yuefeng. To his surprise, it was the lowest level. And it was extremely cold. Most of the disciples here are in the inner sect because the sect master elder is Shichuan Fairy, who has high cultivation but prefers to focus on seclusion and seeks peace and quiet. She also doesn't allow disciples to form romantic relationships, so it can be said that all the disciples here are those focused solely on cultivation. Is it too late to change my choice now? The Grand Elder turned around and saw Hanju's strangely joyful expression. Yuefeng is perfect for me. The most disturbing thing during cultivation is being interrupted, hehehe. The Grand Elder took him inside to meet Shichuan Fairy. Shichuan Fairy seemed to accept disciples easily and only asked him one question, "Are you willing to join this peak? Do you have the determination to focus solely on cultivation?" Before he could answer, an outgoing girl appeared. Finally, Yuefeng has a proper disciple. Chang Yuanai was at the second level of the foundation establishment realm and had some favorable feelings for him, but only 2 stars. It seemed his charm had declined. Hanju coldly said that he could meditate for hundreds of years without leaving, as long as there were no instructions. This cold rejection caused Chang Yunai's favor to drop rapidly. Shichuan found it interesting and wanted him to try attacking her to see if he had the ability. Hanju showed no hesitation and used all his power to cast a spell. When the spell was only a few inches away from Shichuan's face, he immediately dispelled the spell. Her expression remained calm as if nothing had happened. Yuanai saw that he knew when to stop and excitedly expressed her approval. His favor went up to 2 stars. As for Shichuan Fairy, she only had 1 star. Shichuan Fairy thought his swordsmanship was quite good. So, she allowed him to stay at Yuefeng to cultivate. The Grand Elder saw that Hanju had found his place and bid farewell to leave. But at this moment, Shichuan Fairy was staring at him, making him feel guilty. He was afraid that his 6 attributes would be seen through. Yue quietly reminded him, "This is for you to pay respects to your master." Hanju completely forgot this step. For his first time paying respects to a master, he only knew to follow the TV drama's plot. Kneeling and shouting, "Disciple Hanju pays respects to the master, long live the master, long live, long live." Shichuan Fairy sighed, she wasn't a queen. "Forget it, Where, take your junior brother to register for the inner sect and arrange a cave residence." Yue immediately pulled Hanju away. Along the way, she asked, "Do you know how to fly with a sword?" Shichuan Fairy was very satisfied with him. He had a good temperament, good looks, and a good nature. Since Hanju couldn't fly with a sword, he could only let Yue take him. Looking at the height above 1,000 meters, he couldn't help but shiver, with her as his only support. Hanju didn't know what she said, so he just casually said a few words. "Thank you, senior sister. If you ever need any help, feel free to tell your junior brother." Yue was very happy and secretly decided to protect him, not letting anyone bully him. It had been 5 years, and she had been alone at Yuwu Peak. Now, she had junior brother Hanju, who was both handsome and obedient. The fierce expression on her face made Hanju feel scared involuntarily. He hoped that life would be peaceful and smooth from now on. Yue took Hanju to his cave residence, which was next to hers. Since the cave residence was located in a remote part of the mountain, they could focus on their cultivation without fear of being disturbed. Hanju looked around the room and marveled at the grandeur of the inner sect. Since starting his cultivation, this was the first time he felt pressure. The deeper the cultivation, the bigger the gap. Shichuan Fairy was a third-layer Yuan-ing realm cultivator, a realm that was hard to even dream of achieving. The Grand Elder gave him a lesson that the difference between the inner and outer sects was of a completely different level. He was only one step away from the Golden Core, but could only serve as the Grand Elder of the outer sect. Speaking of cultivation levels, the lowest is Qi refining, absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into the body, nourishing the limbs, and enhancing physical fitness. Foundation establishment is when the Dantian absorbs enough spiritual energy, compressing it into spiritual liquid, which then turns into spiritual power. Golden Core is when spiritual power gathers into the state of a Dan Yuan, using a person as a furnace to concentrate energy and spirit, forming the holy fetus. When the spirit, energy, and essence condense into a fetus, breaking through the Golden Core and flying out is the Yuan-ing. At this point, cultivators can connect with heaven and earth, naturally obtaining supreme and powerful strength. Above the Yuan-ing is only the founder of Yuking sect, who later went out and has not returned for many years. Therefore, Shichuan Fairy was the strongest cultivator Hanju had come into contact with. Yuwu Peak truly was his solid foundation before growing up, and Hanju relied on his master. Who knows how dangerous the outside world really is? After thinking for a moment, Hanju began to focus on cultivation, not wanting to lose face for his master. At this moment, the system gave him 2 development paths. One was to gain fame, lead Yuwu Peak to become the strongest sect, obtain top-tier magic tools, but offend Shichuan Fairy. The other was to humbly cultivate, win her favor, and obtain a set of body technique secrets. Looking at the words offend Shichuan Fairy, Hanju was speechless. Your master is really strange. Doing well doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing. 3 years have passed, and Hanju has been in closed-door cultivation. Today, the weather is nice, so he decided to learn how to fly with a sword. If he were to walk, it would still take him half a year to reach the inner sect. Hanju flipped through the book on sword flight. And then tossed it aside, because for someone with his talent in swordsmanship, he could learn it in the blink of an eye. This is the difference of top-tier talent, he doesn't need to struggle like those brothers. At this moment, he quickly passed by immortal Shiquan. She was standing on a nearby cliff, watching Hanju. You're really interesting. You've been in closed-door cultivation for 3 years, and it's quite unexpected. Hanju immediately landed and bowed to his master, asking for guidance. Now that my wind spiritual root and fire spiritual root have both reached the 9th level, Master, could you guide me on where to cultivate the thunder spiritual chi? Immortal Shi Quan didn't give him advice but instead asked him, do you want to cultivate 3 types of spiritual chi to break through the foundation establishment? Hanju nodded. Not just 3 types, but he had 6 types of spiritual roots. But Immortal Shi Quan disappointed him. I'm afraid that's not possible. Focusing on cultivating 1 type of spiritual chi is already very difficult. Not to mention that future heavenly tribulations will only become stronger. Wasting time on cultivation will be a huge loss. Hanju listened and felt that it made sense, but since he already had these spiritual roots, if she wasn't sure, he had his own methods. Hanju sincerely requested, disciple understands, but I believe that with my determination, I can succeed. I am willing to devote all my time to cultivation. Immortal Shi Quan slightly curved her lips. She gave him a transmission array that could directly take him to the thunder spiritual pool. Upon reaching his destination, Hanju was once again impressed by the grandeur of Yuqing sect. The scale of this thunder spiritual pool exceeded his imagination. Just the transportation here allowed him to feel the intense thunder spiritual chi. The higher he went, the more Hanju could feel the aura of thunder spiritual chi, and he felt that cultivating here would allow him to directly break through to the 9th level. Such a vast place, yet only one person was cultivating. Hanju now understood its rarity. Suddenly, a groaning sound came from behind him. Don't wander around in the thunder spiritual pool, you can only cultivate by the lake, otherwise, you'll be struck by lightning. Hanju jumped in fright and screamed. His scream reached the ears of a young man who was deeply immersed in cultivation. What are you screaming for? Haven't you seen a handsome guy before? The tree demon, startled by him, turned around and left, reminding him not to approach the center again. Hanju hadn't expected to encounter a tree demon here. I don't know how rich Yuqing sect is. Although the tree demon looks eerie, the cultivation effect here will be doubled. Hanju wanted to raise a tree demon to help him extend his cultivation time, so he could reach the 9th level of thunder spirit chi ahead of schedule. Just thinking about it made Hanju extremely excited. Little kid, starting from scratch, reaching the 9th level in a year. A young man in the distance saw his arrogance. No one could reach the max level in a year. With such a greedy mindset, they definitely wouldn't go far. A year later, he took back what he said last year. Quietly thinking to himself, Hanju was indeed the big shot of the year. By this time, he had completely cultivated all 6 elemental chi and could break through to foundation establishment. Fairy Shichuan had once worried that he would over-cultivate and fall into demonic cultivation, but she didn't know that the cultivation technique he was practicing had detailed records. That was the method to avoid tribulations. At this moment, dark clouds and mighty lightning appeared in the sky. The tree demon frowned intensely. Foundation establishment thunder tribulation? It's over, he really picked the wrong place. According to the tree demon, Hanju shouldn't undergo tribulation at the thunder spirit pool because the power of the thunder tribulation here would be doubled. The tree demon urged the young man to leave quickly to avoid being caught in it. Hanju, however, could no longer be saved. The tribulation clouds were already destined. Boom! The thunder was deafening. As the powerful lightning descended upon Hanju, his whole body radiated the golden barrier of the tribulation avoiding method, helping him absorb the heavenly thunder and transform it into the purest spiritual energy. It's just a thunder tribulation, transform into my power. Hanju roared. The intense light made it so that the tree demon and the young man couldn't react in time. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed, and Hanju had settled the 3 years' worth of Thunder Spirit Pool usage fees. Originally, he planned to stabilize his cultivation after breaking through, but reaching the 3rd level of foundation establishment was an unexpected surprise. However, his lifespan was about to surpass 200 years. This time, Hanju had to make a choice in his path of development. If he gained widespread fame, Yuqing sect would obtain the 9 underworld thunder technique, but he would be resented by Fairy Shichuan. If he quietly cultivated, he would obtain the golden elixir sooner and get an extraordinary magic sword. Hanju smiled wryly, not knowing how enthusiastic his master was about cultivation. You've reached the 3rd level of foundation establishment in just 2 years. Among the entire inner sect, you can be considered a talent. The young man who had cultivated with him in the Thunder Spirit Pool approached him first. I am Tian Lei Feng Imo Fujio, may I ask your surname? Hanju politely introduced himself. When Imo Fujio learned he was from Yuwu Peak, he was both surprised and regretful. Is junior brother from the Yuwu Peak? Joining Yuwu Peak with this identity is truly a waste. Why not come to Tianlei Peak and join my master, Lei Xiu? Hanju had already taken Shichuan Fairy as his master, once a master, always a father. How could I change so easily? Seeing that he couldn't convince him immediately, Fujio still wanted to give him more time to think. The system displayed some information, and though Hanju didn't know what it said, he was so surprised that his eyes widened. At this moment, Xing Hongchuan was being chased by a group of people. It seemed to be people from the demonic sect. She had already betrayed them, but her whereabouts were unknown. Her identity made everyone want her dead. To redeem herself, there was only one person who believed in her, and that was Hanju. She had only him standing up for her in this life, so she considered him her fate. A crow cawed, caw caw caw, there's red hair in the bushes. So, Xing Hongchuan began running again. She hoped that one day she could see Hanju again. Meanwhile, Hanju saw Xing Hongchuan being chased and helplessly held his head. Why is she still alive? After years of not seeing her, why does she still feel the same affection for me, even stronger than before? However, this system had a function to record phenomena and events, though Hanju wasn't sure what else it could do. He just hoped it wouldn't harm him in the future. Forget it, let's continue cultivating. Just then, strange bell sounds rang from outside. Hanju immediately ran out to join the excitement. Yue excitedly ran up to him. Let's hurry and see the master. A second later, Yue tripped and fell to the ground. After so many years, Hanju had already broken through to the foundation establishment stage, and she couldn't even see through his cultivation level. She was at the 2nd level of foundation establishment, while he was at least at the 3rd level. She had promised to protect her, but now Yue was even weaker than Hanju. This made her favorability toward him drop drastically. Yuwu Peak had never sounded the bell, and Yue forgot to tell Hanju. When the bell rings, it means the master wants to summon all disciples. When Hanju arrived, all eyes were on him, as everyone wanted to break the rules of Yuwu Peak. A 4-eyed young man walked over to greet him. He was Lu Sanxin. He was specifically in charge of the affairs of Yuwu Peak, ensuring that Fairy Shichuan could focus on her cultivation. Hanju politely thanked his senior brother. Just then, Fairy Shichuan arrived. The sect leader has issued an order. The 3 lowest-ranked peaks in the next 36 peaks will send disciples to confront the Qingming demon sect. Over the years, the demon sect has repeatedly sent spies to plot against the Jade Clear sect. The sect leader has decided to strike back. Hanju looked around. Everyone was looking fierce. Hanju wasn't worried about being sent, but whether the last 3 peaks would either die or ally with the enemy was still unclear. Fairy Shichuan didn't care about the rankings, but since this involved the demon sect and the Jade Clear sect, there would inevitably be a battle. She reminded everyone to carefully choose their tasks and not be lax in any way. Lu Sanxin reported that the sect had recently planned to cultivate the most outstanding disciples as a foundation for the next generation. Therefore, he believed this plan was specifically designed for first-generation disciples like himself. To his surprise, Fairy Shichuan chose Hanju. After all, he had gone from the 9th level of Qi refining to the 3rd level of foundation establishment shortly after joining the peak. Indeed, other disciples also felt it was inappropriate. In terms of strength or talent, senior brother Lu is the best candidate. Junior brother just arrived, and now there's a cultivation plan for him? Hanju didn't want to waste time on cultivation. He raised his hand and stood up to refuse. It wasn't a good thing that his master personally sent him. Perhaps they would even suspect he was a spy sent by the demon sect. Fairy Shichuan didn't force him and set Lu Sanqin instead. However, she couldn't understand why he would refuse such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When Lu Sanqin returned, he hurriedly thanked Hanju for giving the opportunity to him. Because of this, his affection for Hanju increased by 1 star. As Lu Sanqin left, Ware excitedly took the initiative to offer to lead Hanju, and Lu Sanqin looked at her in confusion, flashing a mysterious smile. It was as if he was telling Hanju to hold on to her. Ware was going to take Hanju to carry out a sect mission because he had been staying in his cave dwelling and cultivating ever since he arrived. Upon hearing that they would be going out to carry out a mission, Hanju put on a lazy expression and said, "Can I skip it? It's okay if you don't go, but..." Ware asked curiously, "How can you stay in the cave without feeling oppressed or exhausted? Doing tasks can earn you a lot of cultivation resources." Hanju found many excuses to refuse doing tasks. Mainly because he was afraid of death. Ware angrily scolded, "How can we cultivators be afraid of death? If you're not afraid of death, then what's the point of cultivating immortality?" Ware was at a loss for words when he said this, and instead, found it to be very reasonable. Their conversation was overheard by Fairy Shichuan. Sure enough, she suspected him of being a spy for the demon sect, although now, due to his refusal to participate in cultivation tasks, her suspicion had lessened. But a rogue cultivator like him, who doesn't lack high-level resources, made her feel the need to observe him even more. Over 10 years later, Hanju finally returned to the Thunder Spirit Pool. The tree demon saw that he was still at the 3rd level of the foundation establishment stage and couldn't help but feel puzzled, thinking he was a genius. Seeing him sigh, the tree demon comforted, "Listen to me, cultivation is profound, and you can't fully grasp it yet." Not being able to grasp it wasn't Hanju's style. They only saw his Thunder Spirit root at the 3rd level, but didn't notice his other roots. He had spent almost 400 high-quality spirit stones to raise his other roots to the 5th level of foundation establishment. His actual cultivation was already close to the 5th level. The remaining few spirit stones had to be used to perfect his Thunder Spirit Chi. "Junior Han, you're here too." Mark Fuchu jumped out to greet him. He was accompanied by a girl who was his junior sister, Mark Chu. As soon as she saw Hanju, she pouted and muttered, "Why are you still at the 3rd level of foundation establishment? Senior brother said you should have already reached the 6th level." Hee, steady progress. After Hanju said that, he sat down to cultivate. Standing here for even a second consumed many spirit stones, so he specially reminded them not to come near while he was cultivating. Mark Chu seemed a little disappointed because, over the years, it seemed he hadn't made much progress, and it felt like Fuchu's expectations were wasted. She, on the other hand, looked at herself and thought that breaking through 2 levels in 10 years was definitely the speed of a genius. Suddenly, Mark Chu felt something strange. The spiritual energy around them was being absorbed at an incredibly fast rate. It even exceeded Mark Fuchu's absorption capacity, even though he was already at the 9th level of foundation establishment. At this point, Mark Chu's face turned pale, not knowing what cultivation method Hanju was using. If it's due to his root talents, then why hasn't his realm improved at all? Mark Fuchu could only think of one reason, that he had suppressed his cultivation. He might have already caught up to Fuchu's cultivation level. Every time they met, Hanju would give him a reason to admire him, and his feelings of goodwill kept increasing. 8 years later, Hanju finally perfected his Thunder Spirit Chi to the 9th level. At that point, he stopped cultivating Thunder Spirit Chi and went to claim his rewards. The tree demon now realized that he wasn't simple and had a method for suppressing his cultivation. It now had an opportunity to help him gain more cultivation resources, so it wanted to invite him to participate. Hanju only cared about one question: is it dangerous? Opportunities always come with dangers. Upon hearing this, Hanju immediately turned coldly and left. Although the opportunities in the cultivation world were good, even with just a little bit of danger, he preferred to receive regular rewards rather than take risks. But every time Hanju appeared, he became the focal point of the girls around him. A strong attraction isn't necessarily a good thing. Suddenly, a small hand touched Hanju. MISU appeared out of nowhere and said warmly, "Brother Han, you're here too? We must be destined to meet. I just happen to need your help with something. It's a huge opportunity." Hanju remained expressionless, thinking to himself, how come the word opportunity always clings to me like a thirsty bloodsucker? Seeing Hanju's silence, MISU deliberately moved closer, trying to grab him. If successful, wealth and glory will no longer be a dream. Maybe there will be unexpected gains. Seeing her constantly rely on him, Hanju coldly shrugged off her hand, saying, "Miss Mo, please respect yourself. I need to go back and cultivate." MISU was rejected so decisively that she became furious. Before she had time to vent her anger, Hanju had already disappeared without a trace. At that moment, he was hiding behind a wall, thinking, "I hope she won't chase after me." Two girls walked by, chatting excitedly, discussing a younger man more handsome than last year's inner-sect competition. From their words, it was clear they were talking about Hanju. But what Hanju cared about was the inner-sect competition. He had been so busy cultivating that he almost forgot about it. His master would definitely not let him off the hook. So he hurried back to apologize to Fairy Shichuan. Fortunately, she didn't blame him for this, but instead mentioned something else. "You're still stuck at the third layer of foundation establishment? Are you joking with me? I know you're not just staying there." Hanju honestly reported that he had reached the 9th layer of foundation establishment, but he had hidden his cultivation to live a peaceful life. Fairy Shichuan narrowed her eyes, suspecting, if there was someone like you working so hard at Yuwu Peak, that peak would surely have become the strongest by now. After receiving his master's approval, the system rewarded Hanju with a movement technique manual, 7-fold illusion steps. He almost forgot about it. He had been talking to Fairy Shichuan, but didn't realize that someone wanted to join Yuwu Peak. He turned his head and saw the cold, wind-blown face of Elder Tie. The scene of this accidental encounter after decades was something even he hadn't expected. The two stared at each other blankly. "Elder Tie? Hanjue?" Yue stood in the middle and curiously asked, "Did you two know each other before?" But this wasn't just a simple acquaintance. At that moment, Fairy Shichuan had also appointed Hanjue as Elder Tie's senior brother, and would later teach him. The two sat together, both in low spirits. Hanjue, of course, didn't dare to call Elder Tie his junior brother, and Elder Tie still looked bewildered, not understanding what had happened. That year, he had examined Hanjue and found he had no spiritual root, but now he was an inner-sect disciple. It had taken him 20 years to reach the foundation establishment stage, while Hanjue was already at the 9th layer of foundation establishment. If he had noticed back then, perhaps he would have broken through long ago. "Junior brother Tia, what's with that expression?" Yue suddenly appeared behind Elder Tia, looking as if she was about to devour him. "Junior brother Han is a genius of the peak, and I won't allow you to have any improper thoughts." Fairy Shichuan had called Hanjue today to assign him a task. Because he was even more eager to cultivate than her, she arranged for him to guard the Wanya realm of Yuqing sect. When Hanjue heard the name, he immediately sensed a dangerous aura. But Yue was excited as if she was going to play. "That's where Yuqing sect raises demonic pets. Let me go with junior brother, master." "No, it's very dangerous there. Demonic beasts can break out of their cages at any time. Some disciples have died because of it." Hanjue felt a chill in his heart upon hearing this. His master had actually assigned him such a task. It turned out that each peak sent a disciple to guard it, and the place was rich in spiritual energy, making it a great place for cultivation. Though dangerous, as long as one was careful, it would be fine. With this reason, Hanjue couldn't refuse anymore. He had no choice but to obey Fairy Shichuan's orders. After leaving, she turned to remind Elder Tia to build a good relationship with Hanjue, as she didn't care about past grudges. "From my understanding, he won't scheme against you. You can rest assured. Hanjue will be the heir disciple of Yuwu Peak in the future." Upon hearing this, Elder Tia was stunned and widened his eyes, wondering in his heart if he really deserved it. Half a year later, Due to the rich spiritual energy of the Wanhua realm, MANHWA had already reached the sixth layer of the Wind spiritual roots foundation establishment, but his other spiritual roots were still stagnant. Feeling frustrated, he went to check the system to see if there were any new features. The relationship module has been updated again. The favorability of Hong Ying has actually reached 4 stars, and she has decided to make you her husband. Maybe she's lost her mind after being beaten by the demon race and Yuling sect. It was time for the patrol, and you lazily stretched, loosening your muscles. Every patrol is also a training session for the 7 layers of illusory steps. Although the myriad demon realm is a great place for cultivation, the demon beasts often revolt, so disciples are needed to guard it. Today, Hanju had just stepped out the door when he encountered a demon beast that looked like a teddy cat. It doesn't seem too dangerous. So, you simply walked around it and whistled as you went. Unexpectedly, as soon as you turned around, it revealed its true form. A giant beast pounced, using its powerful claws to tear at Hanju. But your body disappeared like an illusion. This surprised it. At this moment, Hanju was already in the air. This demon beast could easily enter your forbidden zone, which was no simple feat. Each layer of the 7 layers of illusory steps creates a shadow. Cultivating to the peak of the 7th layer allows the creation of 7 shadows, which not only increases speed but can also confuse the enemy. Although Hanju was flying in the air at the speed of a blink, this demon beast was no simple existence. You must seal its movements. After creating 7 shadows to surround the demon beast, Hanju used the absolute finger divine sword. From the air, the sword light flickered, shooting straight down. It pierced through the demon beast's body. It painfully curved its tail and fled. But it wasn't critically injured. Because only your true body can hurt this 7-layer illusion. Fortunately, this monster only has rocket-like speed and no real attack methods. I'm just curious about what kind of monster that big cat is, able to break through the barrier and come in. Recently, the monster riots have been happening more and more frequently. It's about time I report to the higher-ups. The sect immediately convened an emergency meeting. Everyone feels that the Qingming demon sect is at fault. I'm afraid they want to use the monsters from the 10,000 monster realm. That's right, recently the sect has tripled the number of demon sect. Spies we've cleaned up, maybe we should send some disciples to the 10,000 monster realm. Yuling sect is facing 2 major issues, the disappearance of the sect leader and the monster riots. Elder Lei, of the Thunder Peak, suggested investigating the truth behind these 2 matters. He turned around to ask Fairy Shichuan's opinion because she had been silent since the beginning of the meeting. But she only said that everything should be decided by them. Dao Lei then suspected that she knew something about the genius cultivation plans of the various peaks, so he immediately asked where the sect leader had gone with the disciples from the 18 peaks. Senior brother, you know I've been in secluded cultivation. I only know a little about these things. If there are traitors in the sect, I can only trust you, we can join forces. Fairy Shichuan nodded, after all, the 2 of them share the same roots. For some reason, Elder Lei smiled meaningfully. 2 years later, Hanju sat down to rest, guarding the barrier formation. Thanks to the arrangement of the barrier formation, Hanju could patrol and rest at the same time. Currently, Hanju is at the 6th layer of foundation establishment, and no one in the barrier's golden core realm can enter, allowing him to cultivate in peace without fear of being disturbed. Young friend, do you treat the 10,000 monsters as a place for cultivation? Hee, what's wrong? Hanju had just answered when his face suddenly turned pale. Isn't it just me here? How come there's a strange old man now? He isn't affected by the barrier, which means his cultivation level has surpassed the golden core realm. Seeing Hanju's panicked expression, the old man smiled gently and explained. Don't be afraid, I'm like you, a disciple of Yuling sect, here to guard the 10,000 monster realm. Although he said that, the old man could see through Hanju's cultivation and knew he had already reached the 9th layer of foundation establishment. After saying something that made Hanju's soul almost leave his body, he tried to calm the atmosphere. No need to be nervous, Did you come here voluntarily or were you sent by your master? My master, Fairy Shichuan, sent me. For some reason, the old man let out a light "oh." He even asked if Fairy Shichuan had assigned any tasks to him. Of course, Hanju couldn't reveal this to a stranger. Oh, can't tell others? This junior sister is really interesting. Kid, do you know you've caused trouble? Hanju's eyes were filled with panic. This was his first time facing someone with higher cultivation. The old man told him to follow him and said he would help solve some problems. At this point, the system finally sent him a message. The old man turned out to be the sect master of Yuling sect, Li Qingzi, with a cultivation level of the 8th stage of the nascent soul realm, and he was infatuated with Fairy Shichuan. Li Qingzi spoke while leading him. The demon beasts here are all subordinates of the white dragon in the center of the lake, and the white dragon has a grudge to settle. This time, it has gathered many demon beasts to ambush here, preparing for a revolt. Honestly tell me, what exactly did you do to anger the white dragon in the lake? Hey, 1, 2, 3, 4. Li Qingzi said a lot, but Hanju didn't listen. Scenes of the old man being close to Fairy Shichuan appeared in his mind. Absolutely unacceptable. This old man is unworthy. After telling the story of his battle with the white dragon in the lake 2 years ago, Li Qingzi realized that he had not angered the white dragon in the lake. Because the demon beast revolt happened earlier than expected, Li Qingzi thought it was the demon sect causing trouble behind the scenes. But you're lucky, the demon king fell into a trap and consumed energy, which is why you're still alive. But what kind of movement technique did you use? How is it faster than the white dragon in the lake? In response to the old man's question, Hanju vaguely replied, I just accidentally found a movement technique faster than it. The conversation returned to the main issue. They had to deal with the demon beast revolt first. Hanju innocently asked, is the solution to kill it? Are you crazy? This demon king has immense potential. Can you afford to kill it? Li Qingzi felt helpless toward Hanju. Fairy Shichuan probably sent him here to let Hanju earn merit, but he didn't understand the situation at all. However, Hanju's movement technique was not simple, and he was able to survive against the white dragon. In the lake, Li Qingzi suddenly thought of a crazier idea than his own. Why don't you go subdue it? Senior, better go find someone else. I just want to quietly cultivate. Does this demon king want me to go die? Hanju would never die for such a ridiculous reason in this life. Li Qingzi tried everything to persuade him. I will set up a formation to devour it. If you succeed, I will teach you the highest cultivation method of Yuling sect, Yuqingju. Seeing Hanju stop, Li Qingzi thought he had persuaded him, but Hanju was just reading the system notifications behind him. If he accepted Li Qingzi's task, he would get Yuqingju, the demon king's hatred, and the attention of the demon sect. If he refused, he would continue cultivating and receive a swordsmanship manual, but Li Qingzi's favorability would decrease. Of course, Hanju didn't care about the old man's favorability, so he immediately refused. Seeing him leave, Li Qingzi angrily stamped the ground. What kind of disciple did junior sister take in? He sighed, in the end, I have to take responsibility for everything. Do you think I'm right, Demon King? The white dragon in the lake appeared behind Li Qingzi without him noticing. Facing it, Li Qingzi still maintained a mocking attitude. The white dragon in the lake roared and summoned hundreds of demon beasts. A battle of 1 against hundreds was about to break out. Meanwhile, Ware and the other young people were searching for Hanju in the 10,000 demon realm. They walked for a while and encountered countless trees that had been chopped down and were leaning on the ground. These marks seemed to be the result of extremely powerful sword techniques, rather than a monster rampage. Shortly after, they arrived at Hanju's cave in the myriad demon realm. As usual, Ware, upon seeing him, excitedly said, "Are you happy, junior brother? Hurry and catch me." As usual, Hanju completely ignored her and walked towards his fellow disciple. I am Menghe, honored to meet Hanju. Menghe was the 7th senior brother of Jade Crow Peak, with a cultivation of the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment stage, sent by immortal Shiquan to assist. Upon arrival, he immediately inquired about the situation here, particularly the trees that had fallen in the back mountain. Hanju scratched his head awkwardly and made up a lie, saying that he had once been attacked by demonic beasts, so an elder had come to his aid. He seemed like a competent senior brother, and immediately took the initiative to patrol, leaving Yue and Hanju to rest. Yue sat down and enjoyed tea with him. This time, Master was worried you would be in danger. I heard that spies from the demon sect have already infiltrated the myriad demon realm. Hanju understood why the system had told him he would attract the attention of the demon sect if he took on that mission. No wonder Li Qingzi had personally come here. It seemed the myriad demon realm was not that simple. Hanju then turned to Yue and said, "Senior sister, how about we leave the myriad demon realm?" Just then, He hurriedly barged in, looking disheveled. "Are there any unactivated formations? Open them quickly." It turned out that as soon as he went outside, he encountered a large demon. From its size, it could be inferred that it was at the gold core stage, which was why he was so badly injured. Previously, He had also seen a group of demons trapped in a deep abyss several miles away, stuck in a broken formation. Yue now understood why Hanju wanted to leave, but he had been here for 2 years and was still unharmed. On the contrary, Hanju was more certain that he had to leave the myriad demon realm, and if he couldn't leave, he should not wander around. Just then, the demonic aura grew thicker, as if they were moving toward them. Indeed, from the distance, a group of demons rushed toward the cave like mad, their numbers so great that even the formations couldn't stop them. In this critical moment, Hanju wondered, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and run. This place is managed by our Jade Wu Peak. If we run, does that mean we are leaving our posts without permission?" Hearing Yue say this, Hanju immediately left alone. "Whoever likes to die heroically, go ahead." MANHWA also thought what he said made sense. The 18 peaks have management areas in the myriad demon realm. If they are attacked, the other peaks will definitely be targeted as well. Just as they were leaving, a group of demon beasts had already destroyed the pavilion and were heading forward. It seemed their target wasn't them. They were just passing by. At that moment, a demon beast opened its mouth behind them. Hanju immediately grabbed Yue. It was the Golden Dan demon beast from earlier. Meanwhile, MANHWA had already flown ahead with his sword to escape. He had even pretended to be a senior brother earlier. Junior brother, above." Yue fearfully looked up and saw 6 or 7 demon beasts flying above, preparing to attack them. One of them charged toward them. She tightly shut her eyes, ready to face death, 3 clear shadowless sword. Hanju shouted the name of the technique. Last time, he refused Li Changzi, so he received this reward. It allows him to transform sword energy into images, using up to 3 different types of spiritual power, each sword shadow representing one type of power. Now it was Hanju's turn to take action. He signaled the sword energy to kill all the large demons. After witnessing Hanju's absolute strength, Yue was immediately shocked. How could this be? That was a Golden Dan demon. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, no one would believe that junior brother Han was so powerful. 1 Golden Dan demon and 1 6-headed Peak Foundation Establishment demon. They were both slain. Died under junior brother Han's sword. At this point, his gaze looked far ahead. Just one look made Yue blush with embarrassment. That cold gaze, she still couldn't forget it. Was that really the junior brother I once knew? Although he was really too strong, too handsome. While Yue was still thinking, she was suddenly startled awake by Hanju's voice. "Everything is arranged. Today's harvest is truly great. The monsters have treasures all over their bodies. I heard they can be exchanged for spirit stones. Let's go." His sudden change made Yue so angry that she puffed her cheeks and followed him. After a while, they finally reached the teleportation point of the 10,000 monsters array. Upon seeing their arrival, MANHWA suddenly cried out, "Junior brother, junior sister, it's so good that you're alive." The response to his call was a kick directly to his face. Yue angrily scolded, "How come the monsters didn't eat you?" In the end, the teleportation was activated, accompanied by MANHWA's miserable screams. After being moved to another place, a new idea came to mind that they had never considered. Just as he was worried that the spirit stones in his hand wouldn't be enough to cultivate to the Foundation establishment. Completion, it came. Hanju hadn't expected that killing the monsters could earn so much money. Holding a bag of money in his hand, it was the first time he truly felt like a rich person. Seeing Hanju's stunned face, Ware reminded him, the 10,000 Monsters realm is a place where the major sects raise monsters. Each monster is worth a lot. Usually, disciples aren't allowed to kill the monsters there, but this time is an exception. We won't be held accountable. Hearing these explanations, he fell into thought. I think I should focus on seclusion for now. I'll slowly accumulate spirit stones. Anyway, this is enough for me to cultivate to the golden core stage. After some time, they finally returned to their master's cultivation place. Facing her, Hanju could only lower his head. Master, not only did the monsters in the 10,000 Monsters realm rebel, but there were also signs of the demonic sect. I can no longer stay there. I come to ask for Master's forgiveness and self-punish by secluding myself for 100 years. Shi Quan shook her head as she looked at him. What if you can't cultivate within 100 years? With just one casually spoken sentence, Hanju's eyes instantly widened. This. Yue immediately responded, Master, this matter has nothing to do with junior brother. At that time, we were attacked by monsters, and senior brother abandoned us and fled alone. But her words did not earn Shi Quan's approval. MANHWA just didn't save you. In the end, your strength was too weak and dragged him down. It's better for one person to survive and deliver the message than for all three of you to die there. Yue was stunned, but this matter. Shi Quan interrupted her and continued, MANHWA didn't make a mistake. He was just protecting himself. You and MANHWA can leave now. Helpless, they could only listen to her. As for Hanju, he was still pondering the meaning behind his master's words. His face darkened like the bottom of a pit. Could it be that she wants to settle the account by herself? Not allowing him to think too much, Shi Quan spoke, Hanju, what have you been cultivating for all this time? He clearly stated his wish, to achieve immortality. Shi Quan shook her head, but if you just stay in seclusion and cultivate without any opportunities, you'll never achieve immortality. Hearing this, his eyes lit up, disciple understands. I want to improve my cultivation first, then once I have enough strength, I'll seek out opportunities. His words made her frown even more tightly. I will arrange an opportunity for you. If you can make a contribution in the 10,000 Monsters realm, becoming a core disciple will not be far off. It's a pity that you've already given up. Also, the cultivation technique, I can't even figure it out myself. When it comes to cultivation methods, there's nothing I can help you with anymore. Now, if you want your own cave with innate spiritual energy. Besides thunder spiritual energy, are there any other attributes of spiritual energy? This condition was indeed very tempting, causing Hanju to pay attention. Where's that thing? He Quan looked at him with very determined eyes. It's near the Yuqing sect. But you must place in the top 3 in the inner sect competition to get it. At this point, seeing his worried expression, she became even angrier. Are you even afraid of the competition? Does it threaten your life? Hanju then looked at his master with a dismissive expression. Master, are there any cultivators in the inner sect competition who are at the golden core stage or higher? She shook her head. Do you think the golden core stage is trivial? At this level, you either become a secluded disciple or an elder or a deacon. Hanju was confused at this moment. So, the people participating in the inner sect assessment are all Foundation establishment cultivators? Upon realizing this, his eyes immediately flashed with light. Then there's no problem. Thank you, Master, for the reminder. I will do my best and bring glory to Yuefeng. Unexpectedly, I used all my effort to persuade that disciple. He Quan could only sigh, at least now we could finally have a conversation. I don't know how much time passed, but a voice sounded at the door. Is the boss here? Opening the Tianzi cultivation room requires 100 spirit stones. He looked at Hanju, evaluated him for a moment, and nodded. All right, your seat is in District A, number 4444. The extraordinary aura he exuded attracted the admiration of many women around. But for Hanju, the most captivating thing in his heart was still immortality. The place he stepped into was picturesque, with people around him riding swords. The scenery before him ignited his fighting spirit, and he immediately decided to break through his realm to prepare for the assessment. But not even 3 seconds passed before he suddenly noticed something. A group of men was gathering together in a mysterious way, which caught his attention. It turned out that a group of insects was bullying a young man named Zhou Fan. Although he had seen everything, Hanju decided to remain a mere onlooker with a calm heart. But it seemed the system didn't let him have his way and appeared immediately. Hanju was startled when he saw the words displayed above. Check if this person is a destined one, and check his background. Returning to the scene, Zhou Fan, angered, could no longer hold back and fought back. He gritted his teeth and said, "You people, if you dare act in the spirit pool, don't you fear the punishment of the mage? Earlier, the envoy of the demon sect tried to make a move, and you're still fighting amongst yourselves. I have reason to suspect that you are traitors of the demon sect." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Fan immediately smiled slightly, and his information appeared. It turned out he was just a reincarnated cultivator at the Great Ascension stage, and his story was similar to characters in other novels, so there's no need for much understanding. As for Hanju, after seeing the system's reminder, his face darkened. The identity of the reincarnated cultivator didn't seem simple. If it were in a novel, he might become the male protagonist, with a significant background in the past. Was the spiritual treasure that old man with the surname E? Meanwhile, he thought to himself as images of angels and demons appeared. The little angel smiled and said, "He is the destined male protagonist, helping him will lead to smooth success in the future, right?" However, the little demon angrily retorted, "No, too many side characters have been killed off. Stop daydreaming." Just like that, he decided to succumb to the devil's temptation, allowing Zhou Fan to be beaten like a broken dog because of his lies. Time flies, 8 years passed like a dream, and Hanju has now reached the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment stage, with the inner sect examination about to begin. At this moment, a voice that caught his attention came, "Why?" It turned out that the destined male protagonist, Zhou Fan, was facing a woman holding a red umbrella. His face at this moment was adorned with autumn leaves falling from the trees, fluttering in the air. His hands trembled slightly, tightly holding onto the hem of his clothes. The woman spoke with deep affection, "I'm really sorry, I know you're a good person. Like those trap girls." At this point, she turned and left without a word of farewell. Hanju sighed beside him, "See? Better focus on cultivation, none of these troubles." But before he could leave, Zhou Fan stopped him. Hanju turned around and asked, "What's the matter, brother?" Zhou Fan immediately replied, "Are you Han Ju?" He nodded, "Yes, I never change my name when I walk, and I never change my surname when I sit." Upon hearing this, Zhou Fan immediately showed a puzzled expression. "I am Zhou Fan from Tianlei Peak. I've often heard brother Ma mention you, saying you will become a powerful cultivator of Yuking's sect in the future, so I wanted to meet you." Hearing this, Hanju immediately pondered. "Brother Ma, look at the mess you've caused." Judging by his look, this is a typical cultivation novel that can't escape the clichés. But what he thought would be a fight or duel turned out to be Zhou Fan suddenly kneeling. "I heard you have let go of your attachment to women. I want to ask, how can I win the heart of the person I love?" Completely off script, this left Hanju stunned. "What's going on, buddy? I thought we were going to compete in cultivation techniques." Zhou Fan remained unconcerned with his expression and loudly shouted, "I hope you can guide me." In response to his wish, Hanju's voice came, "Brother Zhou, actually, you should let go of all this. As cultivators, how can we be obsessed with love? What is a woman worth? If you can attain the great Tao, the hearts of the world will be yours." What you desire will come naturally. Look, have I ever been close to any woman? This step requires your own realization. As soon as the words were spoken, the sunlight seemed to add a bit of persuasiveness to them. Just this one sentence touched Joe Fan's heart. Why does my already dead heart suddenly beat so violently? But this didn't stop Hanju's steps, and he immediately turned around, his mind full of contemplation. What a foolish boy, how can your looks compare to mine, yet you want to chase women? Scene shifts to another place. Hanju looked at the crowd in front of him, deep in thought. This must be another gathering of all disciples, probably related to the inner sect examination. The senior brother walked up from behind. Junior brother, long time no see. Just in time, I also have something to discuss with you. Do you know a woman named Xing Hongchuan? Hanju was surprised. How does he know? Hanju then looked at Yang La and denied, why are you asking me this, senior brother? He immediately answered, over the years, senior brother has been chasing the demon sect with the sect leader in the 10,000 demon realm. Though you weren't injured, it was thanks to the information from a traitor of the demon sect. The sect leader pretended to leave you Qingxin, but in fact, he was ambushing in the 10,000 demon realm. Yang La continued, the traitor is Xing Hongchuan. She was kidnapped by the Qingming demon sect when she was young, threatened with some poison, so she became a spy in Yuqingxin. So, she hates the demon sect deeply. She even tried to steal a prescription from an outer sect alchemist, looking for an antidote. To Hanju's surprise, Yang La continued, this young lady knows her true background and wants to turn away from evil and reform. Later, Xing Hongchuan was rescued by the sect leader. Because of her contributions, the sect leader allowed her to join the inner sect as an exception and become a disciple. After he finished speaking, Hanju said, Xing Hongchuan is indeed a remarkable person. She values loyalty, and I admire her. At this moment, Yang La looked at him. Now, Xing Hongchuan is cultivating at our main peak. We met her before, and I heard she's looking for a disciple, the servant of the alchemist, Hanju. Coincidentally, we have a disciple named Hanju in Yuking Peak. Junior brother Han, do you think this is just a coincidence? He finally understood, and his face immediately turned to stone. She actually told everything? There was no choice but to admit, all right, I am the Hanju she knows. At that time, I didn't have any choice. But seeing the sudden change, Yang La smiled and hugged him. I understand. I just didn't expect your talent to be so extraordinary. She then swore, you chose Yuking Peak instead of going to other superior sections. It is our honor. We will do our best to provide you with the best resources for cultivation. Don't worry. After the music played, Shi Chuan appeared and announced that the inner sect assessment was starting. She then announced the content of the assessment. Each main peak must send at least one disciple. Is there anyone willing to volunteer? Upon hearing this, the disciples immediately raised their hands to sign up, like ants. Among them was Hanju. He looked at Meng He and asked, everyone is participating so actively, does the assessment offer very attractive rewards? Meng He nodded and replied, the rewards are substantial. In addition to the inheritance of ultimate skills, there are 500 top-quality spirit stones and an elf ice shield. However, these things made Hanju think deeply. Is that all? Why didn't Fairy Shichuan mention the innate cave? Could it be that she's opening a back door for me? Eventually, he decided to raise his hand. Since everyone was so interested, he joined in to avoid being seen as out of place. But Shichuan's voice was loud and desperate, Hanju, you're the first. Anyone else? He immediately stood up, expressing, Master, there must be some misunderstanding. But she completely ignored him and turned to look elsewhere. After a while, the final list of candidates was completed, and the other disciples immediately left, discussing excitedly. Only Hanju remained because of Shichuan's special request. She looked at him and asked, your cultivation progress is so rapid. Master underestimated your talent. You've mastered all 3 elements, but your breakthrough speed is so exceptional that you can even be said to be unmatched in Yuking sect. In the face of praise, he immediately clasped his hands together. these are all teachings from my master is the truly powerful one. But his flattery only made Shi Quan feel helpless. I don't remember teaching you anything. Your cultivation and swordsmanship are good, but they're not our secret techniques. As she said this, an unparalleled expression appeared on her face. You must have been taught before. Since you entered the sect, you have diligently cultivated and never intended to harm the sect. There are witnesses who can attest that you were born in the outer sect, which shows that you were simply blessed with fate from a young age. Everyone has their own opportunities, and the master won't be curious to tell you. The reason I'm telling you this is to let you know that for this inner sect assessment, you can confidently display your strength without worrying about causing trouble for yourself. But that wasn't all, Shi Quan continued, to avoid unnecessary trouble, from today onwards, you will be my personal disciple. Her words were like a thunderclap, leaving him stunned. Personal disciple? But the system didn't give him a chance to refuse, and immediately a congratulatory notice appeared, with the reward being the 9 Dragons exorcism seal, marking him as Shi Quan's personal disciple. Knowing that his identity was confirmed, he didn't refuse and immediately shouted loudly, "Thank you, Master." A slight smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. She then turned and waved her hand. This is the jade token for personal disciples. Take it carefully, be cautious, and dismiss yourself. After the meeting, Hanju returned to his place and began familiarizing himself with the new footwork. He stretched out his hand and muttered to himself, as long as I have these 3 spells, it should be no different from the main technique, and using different types of spiritual power gives different effects. It's quite interesting. Now he had many more magical treasures in his hands, though he wasn't yet proficient. With the addition of the Sanqing exquisite shadow sword, there should be no problem. The more he thought about it, the more irritated he became. No, although the master said there were no restrictions on the methods during the competition, the destructive power of these 2 forces is too great. I shouldn't use them unless necessary. If I don't use them, I really have no other techniques left. At this moment, Chang Yuan'ai suddenly appeared from somewhere. Junior brother, the inner sect competition is about to start. Are you ready with your confidence? He stammered in response. Oh, good morning, senior sister. The scene switched to a mountain, and a sudden scream was heard. How did you get in here? It's a secret. Junior brother, come with me to a place for the inner sect competition. Yuan'ai explained. The master is worried that you don't understand the rules, so I was specifically said to explain them to you. The arena at the 18 peaks has been set up. Do you know about it? Each disciple will be assigned to a peak, one-on-one, and the top 10 will be selected. When the competition is held in the inner sect city, the entire sect will come to watch. Junior brother, look, this is where you will compete tomorrow at the Tianju platform. Hanju looked at the notice board and asked, does this mean not many people will come before the top 10? Yuan'ai confirmed, that's right. Is Junior brother's goal to be in the top 3? I believe in your strength, you can definitely do it. He sighed, do your best. Yuan'ai seemed very happy at this moment. We need to inform the master, Junior brother, good luck. Thank you, senior sister, be careful on the road. Once Yuan'ai left, Hanju silently thought to himself. That's right, I should participate low-key. I don't want to attract too much attention. Suddenly, Hong Quan appeared from behind. Her gentle voice sounded from behind, husband. Hanju was startled and turned around shouting, Miss, don't call me like that. But it seemed that she liked it, as she chuckled softly. Hong Quan teased, we talked about this back in the outer sect, didn't expect to meet here, fate is truly wonderful. Hanju stammered, at that time, it was just a chance encounter. If I had rejected you, I was afraid you would have killed me. But Hong Quan seemed unfazed, it's fine, I took it seriously. And at that time, you didn't betray me, otherwise, I wouldn't be where I am today. I heard you've already broken through to the 9th level of foundation establishment, is that true? Hanju confirmed, it's true, but I was a little short, almost broke through, but didn't have time to improve. Hong Quan continued, just a little short? She began to touch her ample chest. Well, I have something that can help foundation establishment cultivators improve their cultivation. Let me see if I can find it. Hong Quan immediately took out a medicine bottle. This is Yuling pill. I don't particularly like it. You can use it. The young man, though addicted, still seemed noble. You can keep it for yourself. After the first sentence, the second sentence had already handed the bottle to his hand. She then said, "Don't worry, I can get this medicine regularly." But Hanju's concern wasn't about this. "I am cultivating under Master Jing Si. You don't need to worry about my master." Her voice carried a warmth. "Good luck in the intersect competition. When I first started, I didn't expect you to be so talented. My talent is ordinary, but if you ever need help in the future, I'll do my best." Hearing this, Hanju's eyes lit up. Before he could finish, Hong Quan had already disappeared before him. Hanju tightly gripped the medicine bottle in his hand, silently thinking, "This is karma." The scene shifted to a room, where Hong Quan was cultivating with her master. The person was Master Jing Si. "You've already given the Yuling pill to that young man. Do you regret it?" Hong Quan still answered firmly, "No regrets, I've already fallen for him." But Master Jing Si still didn't believe it. "Nonsense. Is it just because he's handsome?" Hong Quan blushed as she was caught in her thoughts. "Isn't that enough?" Her master was speechless. "You're working so hard to help him, I think it's not worth it." But Hong Quan explained, "His talent is exceptional. The first time I saw him, he hadn't started cultivating yet. I heard that now he's already at the 9th level of foundation establishment." But Master Jing Si was still confused. "With such good talent, why haven't we heard of him in these years?" Hong Quan explained, "Master said he's very humble, always in seclusion cultivating. Master even wanted to give him a chance, but he directly rejected it. Only then did Master Jing Si think this young man was interesting. It seems I need to pay attention to him as well." The scene shifted to the competition area, and Hanju finally realized he had been deceived. They clearly said that only the top 10 could let the entire sect watch the competition, but he thought other sects wouldn't have many people watching. But in front of him was a sea of people tightly surrounding the stage. Hanju despaired and shouted loudly, "Heavens, what should I do now?" The system then issued a notification. "The intersect competition has started. Now you have the following choices. First, win the final victory and make a name for yourself throughout the Yuling sect, gaining 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. Second, modestly aim for the top 3, minimize the impact, and receive a spiritual treasure." After reading the system's notification, he immediately chose the second option, in line with his low-profile motto. Looking at the sky, Hanju felt that the system truly understood him, and then the bell for the first match rang. MISU pointed ahead at this moment, seeing Hanju stepping onto the stage. She was very confident, believing that Hanju would win the first match. But contrary to his overwhelming cultivation, he deliberately acted as if it was very difficult. Using his movement technique to dodge back and forth, not allowing the opponent to land a hit. The opponent still didn't realize they were being led and continued attacking excitedly, not caring about the consumption of internal energy. He even showed a contemptuous expression, looking down on his opponent. Their match certainly couldn't attract the attention of the picky audience around them. Even the two brothers from their family were stunned. Senior Mai, dressed in black, knew that Hanju was just performing. Never mind, as expected, he's also tired now and has to suppress his strength desperately. Feeling that the time was right, his gaze became sharp. When he noticed the audience was thinning out. The referee had even fallen asleep by noon. He quickly closed the distance to his opponent. The opponent was still full of arrogance, unaware that death was approaching. Then Hanju's proud expression appeared. A loud crash was followed by dust flying everywhere, and the referee was stunned. He used an overwhelming stance to ensure the opponent couldn't stand up again and won the match. The two brothers looked over there, speechless. Hearing their voices, he looked over and smiled brightly. "Brother Mai, I just found his flaw." The next match continued like the first. MISU puffed her cheeks as she sat to the side. "Senior brother, I always feel like that person is deliberately avoiding me." My Fujio sighed as he stood by. "He's a hard cultivator, and doesn't want his cultivation to be affected by women." Speaking of this, his expression became serious. What he wants is the Great Way and immortality. Even with his sister's comfort, the brother still shook his head. I can't compare to him. The sun immediately rose from the top of the pavilion. Hanju was cultivating, his mind in a state of confusion. The initial tactic was to wait for the audience to leave before striking and defeating the opponent. Now the tactic has entered the top 10, and with the audience surrounding him, it is difficult to hide. It is worth noting that the previous reincarnated being of the Great Ascension, Zhou Fan, has also entered the top 10, which is truly astonishing. The current priority is still to become stronger and avoid accidents. At this moment, the scenery was like a painting. Then came Hanju's gaze. No, he looked into the distance, and the leaves didn't move, there was clearly no wind. So, what was the sound of wind just now? Did I fall under some spell? The atmosphere became darker and darker. Suddenly, his eyes flashed, and he performed the Dragon Dance Demon Exorcism seal. A strong light immediately struck below. But this couldn't eliminate all of them, leaving the remnants to appear. He immediately shouted loudly, "Demon, surrender quickly." A loud crash echoed through the night. Then came the sound of powerful footsteps running rapidly through the air. A black figure appeared, shouting, "Stop." Hanju said in surprise, "The demons have really evolved." But upon closer inspection, it was an old man. "I told you not to fight, I am the supreme elder of the I Ching sect. How could the I Ching sect have a half-beast like you? Don't you respect me as a senior?" Upon hearing his voice, Hanju widened his eyes. Could the Supreme Elder be? The Supreme Elder angrily scolded Hanju. "I was just passing by, and you're the one throwing big moves. Do you have any sense of law, any sense of propriety?" He couldn't understand why this old man was out in the middle of the night doing strange things. No wonder others misunderstood him. He didn't care, still angrily saying, "I'm cultivating the primordial spirit's out-of-body experience, don't you understand?" In fact, the Supreme Elder was also frightened. The spell just now almost destroyed his primordial spirit. And even his main body wouldn't be able to withstand it. Are the inner disciples so strong now? Hanju ignored the old man and turned to leave. "I have to tell the master, senior, your actions might scare the disciples to death." The Supreme Elder was startled and quickly stopped him, even apologizing to him without caring about his face. Seeing his reaction, Hanju asked suspiciously, "Do you know my master?" He puffed out his chest and solemnly boasted, "Actually, your master is my disciple, and even the current sect leader is." Hanju replied indifferently, "I'll pretend today's events didn't happen, you can leave now, no need to see me off." The Supreme Elder looked at Hanju with satisfaction and said, "Kid, I think you have excellent talent, do you want to inherit my legacy?" He answered out of courtesy, "What legacy? Do you want the Heavenly Gang Golden Body technique? Only I and the sect leader in the entire I Ching sect know this book on muscle training. The Heavenly Gang Golden Body? It sounds really powerful." Hanju wanted it. But after saying this, he changed his mind. "Forget it, thank you for your kindness, senior." Hearing this, the old man walked away, fuming. Hanju became more certain that the old man had no good intentions. He nearly killed him. He definitely wanted to play with his life. Hanju told his master about the incident. Having a master like a child made Fairy Shichuan's head hurt. That old man is restless again. "Don't worry, I'll go find him in a few days. If he dares to come again, I will handle it personally." After giving Hanju a definite response, she told him to go and rest. At this time, Hanju was still somewhat puzzled. He was curious if the Heavenly Gang Golden Body was really that powerful, since that senior wanted to teach it to him. Fairy Shichuan shyly replied, "It's very powerful. It can be considered the strongest technique in the I Ching sect. But before practicing this divine skill, you must castrate yourself." At this point, the room fell into silence. As expected, that old man had bad intentions, refusing was the wise choice. Wait, if that's the case, then the sect leader and Supreme Elder are. Fairy Shichuan knew what he was thinking and strictly forbade him from spreading the matter. Hanju replied loudly, "Understood." This was to increase his authority, but in his heart, he felt that the senior was really cruel, directly cutting off the chance to practice the divine skill. The next day, the inner sect's top 10 duels officially began. Countless disciples rushed to the stands to watch the strength of these geniuses. These fans squeezed together, holding up the second in command, who didn't look like a panda at all, and loudly shouting with banners. There were too many people watching, Hanju thought for a moment. It's better to just settle it. Suddenly, a fiery figure appeared within his line of sight, and Chang Yuer's voice rang out, "You're finally here. Junior Han, we're here to cheer you on." As soon as she finished speaking, the senior brothers and sisters of Yu Wufeng behind her raised their banners and cheered for him enthusiastically. Hanju thanked everyone in surprise, but at this moment, his gaze locked on a figure. It was Zhou Fan, sitting at the top of the stands, frowning and looking displeased below. Zhou Fan recalled Mo Fujio's words, that his biggest opponent this time was Hanju. Because Hanju always concealed his strength, he wasn't clear about Hanju's true abilities. Mo Fujio guessed that his strength was already on par with the elite disciples. Zhou Fan slightly curled his lips, full of confidence, "Not necessarily, now I have a magical artifact. He definitely isn't my match." Suddenly, his expression changed, as if he saw something wrong. Below, the beautiful Mo Zhu appeared in front of Hanju, cheering for his opponent. "I believe you can definitely take first place." Chang Yuer raised an eyebrow disdainfully, her gaze landing on her, and asked, "Who are you?" "None of your business." She glared at Chang Yuer, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, and met her gaze. "The senior sister gently advised, but in a sharp tone, "You should go develop first, or Hanju will end up in prison." In this tense standoff, Xing Hongchuan appeared, shouting "husband," causing both of them to boil with anger. The duel between the two became a three-way confrontation. Mark Chu said with disgust, "A husband is not someone you can casually call." Xing Hongchuan immediately responded, "I can call him whatever I want, what's the problem?" Hanju, the root of all the trouble, was thrown aside, silent, sitting in the corner contemplating his life, wondering how he got tangled up in this situation. After a while, Old Thunder Sage stepped forward, using his magical powers to amplify his voice, making it deafeningly loud, echoing across the entire square. Everyone quieted down. The first match of the top 10 begins now. Yu Wufeng, Hanju vs Tian Leifeng, Zhou Fan. The stands were buzzing with voices, discussing Zhou Fan, and compliments were heard one after another. "I heard that the top disciple of Golden Wind publicly said that if Zhou Fan enters the top 3, he'll agree to compete with him on the condition of taking him as a Dao partner." Their words had no impact on the two geniuses. Above, Zhou Fan was furious and sarcastically said, "Brother Han, didn't you always say you stay away from women?" Hanju was also quite desperate. "I have no control over it, what else can I do?" There was no time to talk any further. Zhou Fan raised his hand, gathering intense thunderous spiritual energy. He arrogantly reminded, "Brother Han, this time, you must go all out." A lightning-like spiritual treasure appeared in his hand, its form unusual. In the swirl of spiritual energy and lightning, killing intent filled the air. Zhou Fan looked up with cold eyes, glaring at Hanju. The spiritual wind made their clothes flutter, and neither side dared to act rashly, carefully observing each other. Zhou Fan politely invited Hanju, "No need to be polite. You go first." Saying this, he was full of confidence that he would certainly win. Hanju understood his meaning and replied without hesitation, "You said it yourself." Thunder Old Sage saw they were ready and spoke, "Prepare. The match begins." As soon as the words fell, several pale yellow sword energies appeared around Hanju. He spread his arms, preparing to use spiritual energy for his move. Everything was riding on this one strike. Hanju raised his head, his sharp gaze fixed on Zhou Fan, "Get ready to face it." Before, Zhou Fan was confident that his magical artifact would give him the advantage, but now he felt very uneasy. He panicked and said, "Could it be what that person said?" Mo Fujio was a core disciple of Tian Leifeng, his strength beyond doubt. Hanju was one of the few people he acknowledged. He admitted that in some aspects, he was far inferior to Hanju. Compete, don't oppose him. If possible, try to befriend him, it'll bring many benefits. Hanju's potential is huge, and he's the role model of their generation. Even so, Zhou Fan still felt a bit unwilling. He was determined to defeat Hanju and soar to the top. My fate will be decided by me, not by the heavens. He recalled Lu Jiao's mocking words, "You're nothing but this." The more he thought about it, the more unwilling he became. Zhou Fan thought, "You'll see, I'll make you regret this and understand how wrong you are." In his anger, he unleashed his spiritual power, sending shockwaves of pressure around him. The audience couldn't help but marvel at this terrifying spiritual energy. Purple lightning condensed into a ball, surrounding Zhou Fan. This was his invincible defense move. Zhou Fan gritted his teeth and sneered, "What's so great about Tianao? Today, I, Zhou Fan, will definitely step on you." He loudly provoked Hanju, "Come right over here." Mo Zhu had been watching from the side, feeling scared and worried. Zhou Fan's strength, with the magical artifact, is indeed unstoppable. He's even accepted as a direct disciple by Master. Brother Han is at a disadvantage this time. Chang Yu and I replied nonchalantly, "He's still no match for my junior brother Han." "It's clear you don't really understand him." Suddenly, the entire stands erupted. Xing Hongchuan couldn't believe it and covered her mouth in panic. Has the match ended? At this moment, Zhou Fan was knocked unconscious, only instinctively vomiting blood in pain. The magical artifact he was so proud of was completely shattered under the sword's power. Zhou Fan was sent flying off the stage. He crashed straight into the stands, causing surrounding bricks to shatter. Even Dao Lei Old Sage was startled by the situation. He regained his composure and announced, "Yu Wufeng's Hanju wins. The second match is about to begin." People around, still stunned by the quick end, began to laugh. Zhou Fan is nothing after all. As everyone discussed Zhou Fan and Hanju, Chang Yu and I said to Mo Zhu, "I told you, junior brother Han is really strong." Mo Zhu could only accept this angrily. She glared angrily at Zhou Fan, who was receiving medical treatment below. Little did she know, Zhou Fan could not accept the fact that he had lost. He knew Hanju had shown him no mercy. After the challenges, the top 5 of the inner gate finally appeared, with one person automatically entering the top 3 without a direct match. The remaining 4 would face off in 2 duels. The elder took out a lottery slip for them to draw, with red slips allowing direct entry into the top 3. Hanju stepped forward to draw. He drew a red slip. Indeed, supreme luck wasn't just talk. Hanju recalled what his master had said, "If you enter the top 3, you can choose a congenital cave abode." Now, directly ranking 3rd, isn't that it? Hanju could skip a round, and the remaining 4 would duel. These 2 matches were incredibly exciting. The first match was a battle between 2 mental cultivation practitioners. The audience was bored, only seeing them stand still, unaware that their minds were fiercely clashing. The second match clearly involved swords, yet they had to use their muscles to prove their strength as men. The audience painfully pleaded, "Can you use magic instead?" But in the end, the most exciting was still the duel just now. In less than 3 seconds, the top 3 had already appeared, and Dao Lei Old Sage was about to announce the final match rules. Before he spoke, a hand was suddenly raised. "Elder, I surrender." Everyone looked at Hanju in confusion as he raised his hand. Ignoring the gazes of others, he explained, "I've used too much spiritual energy in the previous match and haven't recovered. I'm willing to take 3rd place." Dao Lei Old Sage was shocked, tightly closing his lips, his thick beard curling like grass. After a while, he agreed, "The 3rd place is confirmed to be Yu Wufeng's Hanju." He reminded, "Remember to go to the main peak to collect your reward." Everyone thought they had overestimated Hanju, but some believed it was a sign of respect for his opponent. Some paid great attention to and lamented for Zhou Fan. Hearing this, he muttered softly, "It turns out I'm not weak either." Zhou Fan felt a bit relieved in his heart. He blushed happily and murmured softly, "Brother Han." At this moment, Hanju suddenly received a system notification. "Zhou Fan's affection for you has increased to 2 stars. He didn't understand what had happened. Why is this affection so strange? System notification, you have received a reward, a 7th grade spiritual treasure, the Golden Zen Divine Healer, which can withstand all attacks. It can resist a strike from a transformation stage cultivator. If infused with spiritual energy, the defense power will increase. Transformation is a realm lower than Yuan Ying. Is it really that powerful? Hanju was so happy to receive the reward that he wagged his tail. Dao Lei Old Sage saw his reaction and suspiciously pursed his lips, then asked seriously, "You're so happy just from ranking third? Unless the Grand Fairy told you to fight for third place?" Hanju was so scared that he quickly denied it and was let off. He took the top 3 contestants to the main peak hall to collect their rewards. Jing Xizhenren, the sect representative, stepped forward and said, "Congratulations to the 3 of you for becoming elite disciples of our sect. This time's reward is 3 congenital cave abodes, with the first place having priority in choosing." Several golden light orbs flew from her hand, and Jing Xizhenren explained to them, "These 3 congenital cave abodes are located by the mountains outside Yushi's 18 peaks. Because the location is very hidden, these light orbs will lead the way to the cave abodes. You will be responsible for guarding these cave areas in the future." Hanju couldn't help but think, are they going to make them guardians? The first congenital cave abode had relatively strong wind and fire spiritual energy. The first place immediately seized the opportunity and chose it, as it suited him perfectly. The second congenital cave abode had rich water, fire, and with spiritual energy. Without a doubt, the muscular man chose it. The remaining cave abode was for Hanju. This cave abode's spiritual energy was very complex, but its energy density was equivalent to that of a spiritual pool. Hanju secretly rejoiced, "This cave abode is perfect for my 6 spiritual roots." On the surface, he humbly clasped his hands and said, "Thank you, Jing Xizhenren. I am very satisfied with this." Jing Xizhenren admired his character and thought to herself, "This person managed to rank third. It seems the Grand Fairy did not misjudge his talent, he is indeed remarkable." Everything was over, and Jing Xizhenren instructed them to follow the light orbs to their respective cave abodes. The 3 of them thanked her and left to follow the orders. Hanju followed the white light orb, walking through the forest, reaching a water source, and seeing a mountain. At the foot of the mountain, there was a small cave entrance, with a faint light visible. The light orb flew to a rock with a crack. He walked through a very narrow passage, wide enough for only one person to pass. Hanju walked about 10 steps, suddenly encountering a burst of bright light. In front of him was a structure carved from the mountain wall, consisting of several small rooms. The interior was neat and orderly. Some wooden frames were already prepared, convenient for planting vine-like plants. The surrounding land was vast, with ponds and trees growing naturally and flourishing. At this moment, Hanju widened his eyes, staring intently at the spiritual treasure he had just obtained. This is a defensive garment, the same as those worn by people outside. But the Golden Zen Xian Divine Garment is different. It feels very thin and light, capable of perfect defense. Hanju put on the Golden Zen Xian Divine Garment, which shimmered with a crystalline glow, covering his arms. However, after waiting for a while, Hanju realized that he seemed no different from before. The garment completely merged with his outer robe, merely making the sect's attire look refreshed. Hanju thought to himself, if the defense is really as the system says, even an attack from a Yuaning expert may not threaten me. This unprecedented sense of security means I can now focus on cultivating with peace of mind. Hanju walked back and forth, thinking, now, it's different from before. It won't be easy for anyone to find me. I've carved my mark outside the main gate, hoping they'll recognize that this is my cave abode. Just then, in front of the narrow entrance to Hanju's cave abode, stood 2 people. It was Zhou Fan and Mo Fuzhou. They had been searching for Hanju for half a day, and Zhou Fan was still a little skeptical. Is this really Hanju's cave abode? Mo Fuzhou had been slightly hesitant before, but now he was sure and called out to Zhou Fan, look up. Following his gaze, they saw a line of mighty words carved above the cave entrance, endure for a moment, and the wind will be calm. The 2 of them didn't know how to praise it at first, but it indeed matched Hanju's character very well. Mo Fuzhou shouted, "Brother Han, I am Mo Fuzhou, here to visit you." Hanju curiously ran out and asked, "What brings you two brothers here?" Mo Fuzhou explained to him, "Recently, the sect has released many missions related to the Qingming demon sect. Would you be interested in joining us to eliminate the sect's branch?" Zhou Fan grinned and added, "I've investigated. That branch has many spiritual pills that could help you with your cultivation." Hanju was completely unmoved and waved his hand, "Thank you for your kindness, but I don't wish to leave here for now. I'm going into seclusion to break through. I wish you both a bright future." Breakthrough into seclusion? Are you about to reach the golden core stage? Zhou Fan was startled by this fanatic cultivator. Hanju didn't deny it and turned to walk into the cave. "If there's nothing else, I'll go into seclusion." Mo Fuzhou still didn't give up. He grabbed Hanju's shoulder and tried to persuade him. The golden core breakthrough isn't easy. The heavenly tribulation is even more terrifying than the foundation establishment stage. If you join us for the mission, you will be given priority for the tribulation pill. Seeing that Hanju suddenly raised his head, paying attention to what he said, Mo Fuzhou was very pleased. As expected, to invite Hanju, we need to tempt him with cultivation. Cultivation requires not only luck but also stepping stones. Without stepping stones, you can't go far. He's not content right now, his eyes show everything. In reality, Hanju was checking the system. One option is agreeing to work with them and earn a low-grade spirit stone, while the other is rejecting humbly and receiving a magical item. It's obvious which one is more beneficial. Zhou Fan still enthusiastically invited him. This mission is crucial. If we perform well, we can achieve merit. And our status in the Yuling sect will rise. Our reputation in the cultivation world will also greatly increase. Hanju still refused. "Sorry, I'm not interested in fame or profit. If Yuling sect ever faces disaster, I will give my all, even if it means perishing." He turned around, his expression serious, "But right now, all I want to do is cultivate." Looking up at the sky from the ground, the white clouds floated in groups, resembling a long life in pursuit of immortality. Ma Fuzhou and Zhou Fan really couldn't understand the thoughts of this talent. Although he's very strong, he's too timid, Ma Fuzhou sympathized. "Yes, you can't spend your whole life in seclusion," Zhou Fan added. "If you want to cultivate, you inevitably have to compete for opportunities. Sooner or later, he'll come to understand." Zhou Fan continued. "Unless he really doesn't need any resources, continuing in seclusion won't help him get anything." He looked up and thought deeply, "Forget it, once I get those spiritual pills, maybe I can surpass Hanju." "Brother Han, wait. I'll prove I'm not inferior to you. When you have nothing left, you'll definitely regret it." At this moment, Hanju happily received a system reward. The small Qiankuan belt can be used as a storage bag, with a vast space inside. The Qiankuan belt is hard to destroy. 2 years later, after perfecting his 6-element spiritual power, Hanju was finally ready to break through to the golden core. This step couldn't be taken lightly. Out of 10 early-stage cultivators, only 3 would successfully break through. The spiritual energy around Hanju leaked out, as the breakthrough was about to happen. Dark clouds rolled, gathering above his head, as if waiting to strike him with blazing lightning. Ignoring everything, Hanju calmly closed his eyes. "I've heard that the heavenly tribulation at the golden core stage is likely to give rise to a heart demon. If the breakthrough fails, you'll either be killed by the heavenly tribulation or fall into madness." Just then, a terrifying laugh sounded in his ears, whispering, "What do you want? Fame, fortune, or women? You are already strong enough, no need to hide. Show your power to the outside world. Is it the heart to become a saint, or to overthrow the eternal dictatorship? The decision is in your hands." Hanju calmly asked, "Is that so? Anything else?" The voice was stunned, not understanding why the protagonist remained unmoved. He lightly pointed, tearing the voice apart, "Is the heart demon this weak? Without a choice, you still dare to talk about erasing my name and making me famous. You really picked the wrong opponent. Take it slow, I won't see you off." The heart demon turned to dust, dissipating into the void. the heart demon is gone, now let's focus on the breakthrough. Hanju looked up, his eyes filled with absolute determination. A flash of light appeared, blending with the rolling clouds, mention Chow Chow, and Chow Chow will come. A massive thunderbolt rained down, turning the entire gloomy sky into a blinding white. At the same time, Hanju quickly recited an incantation, 6 paths of reincarnation open, golden Zen Shen divine garment activate. The light merged with his figure, making it impossible to distinguish between them. He could only slightly open his eyes to see. 7 days later, the system notified, you have obtained a top-grade magical sword. The Qilin sword is made from Qilin bones, containing the Qilin soul. It has the power to exorcise evil and absorb souls with the 6 paths of reincarnation, and can activate the inheritance function. Hanju excitedly waved his arms in celebration, my lifespan has increased. Not bad. Breaking through to the Yuaning stage within 100 years should be no problem. If it takes more than 100 years, then I've lost. He stretched his muscles. Then lazily lay down and proudly pressed the screen. Now, let's see what my friends are up to, then I'll continue cultivating. The happiness quickly faded, and Hanju suddenly stared at the screen in fear. The notification read, Friendly Qingzi has been attacked by demonic cultivators. The sect master has been attacked multiple times by the demonic sect? Has the demonic sect infiltrated us? I wonder how master is. It's best to go back and check. He hurriedly flew back with his sword. But the sight before him shocked Hanju. Black smoke shrouded the once elegant Yuling sect, alarms blared, and commands echoed from all directions, those with light injuries, wait. Those seriously injured, take them for treatment, try to gather on the Northwest Plaza for recovery. Countless fellow disciples were injured, exhausted, and gathered together. Standing on the plaza filled with wounded soldiers, Hanju was momentarily speechless. Chang Yuer was busy distributing pills to everyone, and when she saw him, she shouted, Junior brother Han. The once proud and strong girl now looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes, scolding him, you still know how to come back? Master said if he finds you, you should meet him. Hanju walked into the familiar great hall, feeling guilty, and bowed, disciple greets master. After the intersect competition, I was eager to cultivate and forgot to visit master. Please punish me. Fairy Shichuan spoke coldly, you still know how to come back? I thought you had betrayed the sect. Hanju's mind was in turmoil, unable to respond to this seemingly casual yet sarcastic remark. She slowly continued, now, Yuling sect is about to face an unprecedented disaster. At this point, Fairy Shichuan's gaze became deep, flashing with an unclear meaning. I'll give you a chance. You can leave Yuling sect. These words fell like a heavy weight, pressing down on Hanju. Hanju stood in the pouring rain, his silent figure reflected in the large puddle on the ground. He was stunned, as if struck by lightning, and said, the news of Yuling sect's disaster is so unbelievable, it feels like a prank. Hanju stared wide-eyed, frozen, unable to utter a word, only sweating as he opened his mouth. Just as he hesitated whether to choose the first option, a system notification suddenly popped up, catching Hanju's attention. The system notification said he had 2 options. One is to leave Yuling sect and receive a bottle of qi-gathering pills, the other is to stay and receive a magical artifact and a spellbook. After reading the notification, Hanju lowered his head and softly said, what about master? Fairy Shichuan gently closed her eyes and calmly said, I will live and die with Yuling sect. Suddenly, his voice continued, leaving her somewhat stunned, in that case, let's. Hanju's face grew serious, his eyes filled with determination, emphasizing each word, I, as a disciple, will share life and death with my master. Shi Quan raised an eyebrow in surprise, aren't you afraid of death? Hanju thought to himself, of course I'm afraid, but the golden Qi Xian. Suddenly, the system's prompt sound interrupted his thoughts, showing the notification, master's affection for me has reached 3 stars? Hanju's face looked somewhat unpleasant, if it increases by 1 more star, won't that mean we could develop into Dao partners? After thinking for a moment, he decided to put these thoughts aside. Hanju then raised his hand, his voice like thunder, ultimately, people must die. One is as light as a feather. The other, as heavy as Mount Tai. I pursue immortality, but I also don't want to abandon my master. He clenched his fists, full of determination. Although he said this, Hanju's eyes were still filled with concern. Unless I encounter someone I cannot defeat, of course, I will protect my own life first. Shi Quan slightly curled her lips, but I never taught you these things, there's no need for you to become like this. As soon as she finished speaking, he immediately denied it. Although you didn't teach me, your kindness is as heavy as a mountain. Every time my master helped me, I deeply remember it. These were truly Hanju's sincere words. He truly hoped she would live a peaceful life. Hearing this, Shi Quan gave a slight smile, her face full of pride, as expected of a disciple of my Yuwu Peak. But it's not that serious. You already have the heart. Suddenly, Chang Yu and I excitedly jumped out. Actually, Master thinks you were afraid of death, so she let you leave first. As a result, she was immediately knocked on the head, and Shi Quan turned around to ask Hanju about his cultivation progress, telling him to follow her. At this point, Shi Quan realized she had never properly taught Hanju. He awkwardly raised his finger and scratched his face. It's nothing. She didn't answer but was cursing. Hanju in her heart, this brat, I just gave him a little guidance, and he doesn't appreciate it. In the end, Shi Quan said no more and let him leave. From within the great tower, Hanju's cheerful voice came, disciple takes his leave. After he left, she instructed Chang Yu and I to go ahead to the next place. Shi Quan picked up a talisman with 2 fingers, help your junior brother, do as I say. The items are all in the storage bag. After hearing this, she curiously glanced at it and nodded obediently in agreement. A while later, in front of Hanju's cave residence, he hesitated and asked, why is senior sister here? How did senior sister enter my cave without anyone here? Hanju opened his eyes wide as he looked at the scene before him. These are. Chang Yu and I glanced at him. Master asked me to help you arrange it. The spiritual herbs are to increase the spiritual energy around your cave. The formation arranged by the red stones needs to be infused with spiritual energy to activate. This formation hides the cave entrance, and if anyone trespasses, they will fall into an illusion and be unable to escape. The spiritual herbs don't need special care, they will automatically enhance the surrounding spiritual energy. Several vibrant spiritual herbs seem to glow under the sunlight. She happily asked Hanju, these aren't bad, right? He couldn't help but say, I didn't expect senior sister to know about these. Hearing this, Chang Yu and I showed a proud smile, don't look down on my cultivation, I know everything. About alchemy, talismans, and exorcising evil. Hanju immediately bowed to thank her and Shi Quan. Suddenly, Chang Yu and I moved closer to him, her ample chest swaying in front of him, causing Hanju to jump in shock. You can skip the thanks. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, she appeared angelic. In some time, senior sister will move in to keep you company. Hanju broke into a cold sweat, swallowed nervously, and hesitated before calling out twice, senior sister. After a while, Hanju finally spoke amidst the romantic atmosphere, is senior sister planning to absorb some spiritual energy from my cave? As soon as the words were spoken, Chang Yu and I immediately became gloomy, her whole body shaking involuntarily. Seeing this scene, Hanju immediately stiffened like a stone sculpture, his expression seemingly frozen on his face. 5 years later, in the cave, glaring light streamed through the cave entrance, illuminating the inside. At this point, Hanju had reached the 3rd level of the Golden Core realm, sitting cross-legged in contemplation, checking the system notifications. He flipped through the notifications and saw that Li Qingzi had been attacked continuously by demon cultivators, sighing inwardly. The sect leader is truly pitiful. Brother Ma and Brother Zhou also made the list, luckily I didn't follow them. Suddenly, the system's reminder popped up again, detected a natural-born fortune-bearer. Do you want to investigate their origins? Hearing natural-born fortune-bearer, Hanju immediately became nervous. Is there someone outside the cave? The notification displayed information about the innate demon fetus, Chen Sanqian. He frowned, pondering, what is a core disciple of the demon sect doing in Yuking sect? I wonder if he's alone or bringing an army. As Hanju thought, if it's just him alone, I should have the upper hand. Outside, Chen Sanqian was reciting the words carved on the stone, endure for a moment, and the wind will calm. After finishing, he sneered and mocked, Yuking sect people are indeed nothing but head-shrinking turtles. Suddenly, Chen Sanqian realized the strangeness of this place. How could such a desolate place have so much fame? He immediately concluded, this must be a cave, but then scratched his head, puzzled, I wonder where the entrance is? Hanju was observing him through the barrier. Upon hearing Chen Sanqian call him a head-shrinking turtle, he was furious, his fingers trembling involuntarily, veins bulging. Outside, Chen Sanqian's words rang out again, finished, little brat. Hanju gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with killing intent, coldly staring at Chen Sanqian. It's almost confirmed he's alone, I should give him a good reception. Just as the decision was made, Chen Sanqian sensed killing intent nearby. Chen Sanqian was not ready yet when three sword energies simultaneously cut across his body. He widened his eyes, incredulously staring at the scene before him. These three sword energies were Hanju's Qingju Shadow Sword, and in less than a second, Chen Sanqian was knocked down. He was sent flying far away, crashing to the ground, then falling into a cloud of smoke and dust. This move can break spiritual energy, leaving no chance to counter. After a while, the smoke and dust gradually dispersed, revealing Chen Sanqian lying on the ground. Suddenly, he noticed the technique suspended in the air and hurriedly looked up in panic. Chen Sanqian, covered in blood, hurriedly begged, Senior, let go. A voice came from inside the cave, what are you doing in Yuking sect? Chen Sanqian immediately explained, this is all a misunderstanding, I was just passing by. At this moment, he was extremely nervous, who is this person? I clearly investigated, Yuking sect doesn't have such a powerful sword cultivator elder. Chen Sanqian narrowed his eyes slightly, could it be the Grand Elder of Yuking sect? At that moment, Hanju suddenly appeared behind him, calling out in a deep voice, innate demon fetus, disciple of the Qingming demon sect. If I hand you over to Yuking sect, what do you think will happen to you? Chen Sanqian's first thought was, how does this person know my identity? Then, he suddenly turned around and shouted loudly, I was wrong. Please give me a chance. When he saw the young, beautiful face in front of him, Chen Sanqian guessed, are you a disciple of the senior? Hanju was thinking whether he should hand him over to the sect as a hostage exchange. While thinking, suddenly, a sharp blade was pressed against his neck. After placing the knife on Hanju's neck, Chen Sanqian immediately angrily threatened the cave, Senior, let me go, otherwise I will kill your disciple. Suddenly, a calm voice rang out, stunning him, then please wait a moment. After Hanju said, I have no disciple, the atmosphere immediately became very awkward and embarrassing, as if Chen Sanqian had turned to stone. Once he regained his senses, he immediately curled up and kneeled on the ground, trembling as he said, I was just joking. At this point, Chen Sanqian was greatly frightened, Senior is at the early stage of the 9th layer, it must be an illusion. Technique able to suppress me and even see through my identity, definitely a master. There's no chance of escaping now. Hanju was slightly disappointed, the core disciple of the demon sect is only at this level? I was still hesitating earlier, wondering if he's too weak or if the 3 pure absolute shadow sword is too strong. Thinking this, Hanju suddenly turned and scratched his head as he walked towards the cave, never mind. Come with me. Hearing this, Chen Sanqian immediately thanked Hanju loudly for not killing him. Inside the cave, several stalactites continuously dripped water, falling into a small stone pool. He led the way inside, we can't force him now, we have to find a way to keep him here. Chen Sanqian followed Hanju inside, curiously looking around, so this is a hidden entrance formation. He nervously speculated, originally, I planned to hand him over to my master, but he would definitely try to escape, so I would have to kill him. Now, he doesn't dare to run, maybe he has overestimated me. Thinking of this, Hanju suddenly called Chen Sanqian's name, and he immediately looked over in panic. Hanju casually pointed to his own face, asking Chen Sanqian to stab him with all his strength. Upon hearing this, Chen Sanqian immediately rolled his eyes, "Senior, are you looking for an excuse to kill me?" Chin Santian panicked and yelled in a fluster, "I was wrong." Hanju remained calm, "Not going to try? Do you still want to sneak attack me later?" Upon hearing this, Chin Santian immediately shook his head in denial, and when Hanju said he didn't blame him, Chin Santian immediately asked to bow and apologize. He didn't know that Hanju wasn't worried because of the Golden Lotus Xianshan protecting him. Hanju helplessly looked at how Chin Santian curled up in fear, then arranged his work. "Am I really that scary? I didn't expect this person to be so timid." These colorful flower clusters were enveloped by sunlight and spiritual energy. Sunlight poured through the cave entrance, lighting up the inside. Hanju sat in the center of the entrance, basking in the brightest and strongest sunlight. In a dark corner, Chin Santian was secretly observing him. "Senior, your cultivation is truly impressive, you've never stepped out of the door." After thinking for a moment, he lowered his head and said with concern, "I've been here for a year, if this continues, the information will be delayed." Chin Santian frowned and looked at Hanju again. "As a core disciple, you haven't come back, the elders and the master must be very worried. What should I do?" After thinking it through, he suddenly felt murderous intent. Take action while he's cultivating, maybe there will be a chance. Once the thought crossed his mind, Chin Santian immediately acted, the veins on his hand bulging. At that moment, Chin Santian rushed towards where Hanju was sitting. "If I can, I'll make you pay a hundredfold. I'm a demon fetus, everyone who hears it wets their pants," from the Qingming demon sect. Just then, Hanju suddenly seemed to have eyes on the back of his head, turning sharply, his gaze filled with killing intent. He immediately turned and pretended to be swatting a mosquito. "Sorry, I was disturbed, there was a mosquito." Hanju saw this and just pursed his lips in silence. Suddenly, the system's notification sound rang. Seeing the system notification that Chin Santian's hatred level had reached 4 stars, then watching him obediently go to clean, Hanju was speechless. He silently sat down and thought, "I haven't tormented Chin Santian this year, nor contacted the sect to protect him. But now his hatred level has reached 4 stars. Behind him, after Chin Santian turned and left, he immediately began to think of a way. "Once he goes out, I can escape, he can't keep cultivating like this. When I go out, I'll lead the sect to wipe out this mountain." He furrowed his brow, his face full of determination. Chin Santian squinted his eyes, a glimmer of hope for the future flashing in his eyes. "At that time, I'll settle all the debts from this year." While thinking this, he suddenly widened his eyes in shock, his eyeballs almost falling out. At that moment, Chin Santian had a huge hole in his chest, created by Hanju from behind. The Tianqing Absolute Shadow Sword had gathered into a line. Hanju coldly declared, "I gave you a chance, but you didn't use it. Be obedient, and you might still have some value as a hostage. Now, there's no need." Before the words were finished, Chin Santian's body collapsed, flesh and blood scattering in all directions. Afterward, Hanju began to think about the next steps. This person is connected to some strange elder. Once he dies, those old monsters will sense it and come after me. At that moment, suddenly, a strange smoke emerged from the corpse beneath his feet, causing him to pause in surprise. Hanju looked at the figure of the real Zhang demon slowly appearing from the smoke and couldn't help but be startled. Is it really him, or is it a fake? The person widened his bloodshot eyes and gritted his teeth, saying, "You killed my beloved disciple, that means you're dead." As soon as the words were spoken, Zhang demon pointed at Hanju and angrily said, "Do you have the guts to say your name?" Hanju calmly lied, not even lifting his eyelids, "I am Cao Cao, and you?" Hearing this, the person immediately burst into wild laughter, introducing himself, "I am Zhang demon from the Qingming demon sect." "Cao Cao. I remember you now, wait to die." After saying that, he disappeared into the air in front of your eyes. At this moment, the system popped up with a notification. Zhang Renma's hatred value towards Hanju is 5 stars. You looked at the hatred value and sighed, holding your head. "Oh no, why is it so high?" Hanju is only at the 8th level of the nascent soul stage, not even in the divine transformation stage, so he can't resist him. After thinking for a while, you decided to contact the sect to send someone to clear the hatred. 8 years later, still in the familiar cave, with a motto engraved on the door, Xing Hongchuan stood at the entrance and shouted twice, "Husband." She gently walked in, happily raising her hand and pretending to ask, "Is my husband home?" Then, Xing Hongchuan excitedly ran in, shouting "Husband," which startled Hanju, who shouted, "Senior sister is fine, but now even she is using formations to pretend." After calming down, Yu asked Xing Hongchuan, "What's the matter?" She immediately took out something that shocked Hanju. "Let me show you this treasure." It turned out that the treasure Xing Hongchuan was talking about was the Yuqing Dan. Seeing the table full of Yuqing Dan, Yu couldn't help but marvel, and she generously said, "These are the Yuqing Dan I've accumulated over the years, just take them." However, Hanju's response exceeded Xing Hongchuan's expectations. "Go back, I don't need them." She immediately asked in confusion, stuttering, "But you didn't explain," only saying in a deep voice, "You are already in the 3rd level of the divine transformation stage, keep them for yourself." Hearing this, Xing Hongchuan immediately frowned, looking very sad. After a while, she suddenly thought of something and widened her eyes, stunned as if struck by lightning, and couldn't speak. Seeing this, Hanju walked up to Xing Hongchuan. "Don't spread the news about my breakthrough if you want to be my companion." At this point, you slightly raised your head, furrowing your brows and speaking firmly, "Then you must cultivate well. In a few hundred years, I will become an immortal, and you will turn into bones." She listened silently, Hanju's words cutting into her heart like a knife. "Your deep feelings for me are a punishment to me." After a while, Xing Hongchuan responded, "You are right, I cannot hinder your progress." She gently turned around and smiled at you. "Husband, focus on your cultivation, I'll go get the cultivation pills for the gold core stage." Hearing this, Hanju immediately hurriedly reached out to stop her. "That's not what I meant." In a room, in the Qingming demon sex room, the small window let in natural light, enough to see things hidden in the darkness. Along the wall, several bright skulls were neatly arranged, their eye sockets flickering with light. Entering another empty room, there were a few people sitting in a circle, with one person standing in the middle. The sect leader of the Qingming sect, Duan Tongtian, had reached the peak of the nascent soul stage, frowning and saying in a gloomy voice, "It's been so long, and we still haven't found Li Qingzi?" Zhang Renma immediately responded, "Li Qingzi is deliberately not returning to the Yuqing sect to distract us." He narrowed his deep eyes slightly. "Why not give up on him and directly attack the Yuqing sect?" The people present immediately volunteered to go on the attack, and one person stepped forward to report, "The Yuqing sect still has an old monster." Someone asked the sect leader for his opinion. After thinking for a while, he chose to delay. "We've invested too much in Chen Sanqian. Now that he's dead in the Yuqing sect, we won't just give up. This time is different." Captain Tang Tongtian showed a proud smile and announced, "I am about to reach the divine transformation stage. If successful, defeating the Yuqing sect will be almost certain." These words immediately shocked everyone else in the room. Zhang Jinren hesitated and asked Tang Tongtian, "Are you really that confident?" Upon hearing this question, he furrowed his brows, showing some displeasure. "I have been preparing for this for decades." Then, Tang Tongtian turned around and confidently said, "There is a 90% chance." Everyone, wait another 30 years. The surrounding demon cult members immediately cheered in support, expressing their desire to destroy the Yuqing sect for revenge. Zhang Jinren also squinted his eyes, his gaze filled with killing intent. "Wait to die, Chow Chow. Cherish the time you have left." In another distant place, a pair of eyes sparkled with a happy light. 10 more years have passed. Every day in these years has been changing. Hanju had already reached the 9th layer of the Lei Feng spiritual root golden core stage, and with some other low level golden core spiritual roots, he happily twisted his body. "It feels full and magical, the nascent soul stage is calling me." It was as if he was flying in heaven, extremely happy. A heart shape formed above his head. "I'm so happy." Suddenly, Chang Yunai appeared beside him, joining in the fun. "Junior brother, I came to see you." In the cave, Hanju's helpless voice sounded again, "Please, senior sister. Please be considerate of my cave." She replied matter-of-factly, "The formation was set by me, so I naturally know how to enter." Chang Yu and I held something the size of a thumb and said, "Planted by the lake, it can make the spiritual energy in the cave more abundant and even make it the best cave of the Yuching sect. After hearing this, Hanju deeply bowed and thanked her loudly. Seeing this, Chang Yu and I smiled. These are gifts from the master, I'm just doing small things. While Hanju was still happy for how good the master was to him, she continued, over the years, there have been some new disciples at Yuching Peak. Behind you, there was junior brother Tai, who reached the limit of his lifespan 2 years ago and passed away. These words immediately shocked him to the point his scalp tingled. Hanju turned his head, his eyes filled with disbelief. Tai Lao is gone? Chang Yu and I slightly looked up at the sky. Junior brother Tai had poor aptitude, and when his lifespan ended, he passed away. But before he died, he wanted to see you, that's what his alchemist said. After hearing this, he asked in a low voice, why did he want to see me? She calmly replied, how would I know? I wasn't close to him. Hanju didn't say anything further, only lowering his head, closing his eyes, hiding the pain in his eyes, silently muttering, Tai Lao. He recalled many years ago when he was only 6 years old. This child's parents abandoned him and ran away. Master, what do you think? The voice came from 2 people outside the door, eagerly explaining to a person called Master, asking for mercy for this poor child. He coldly instructed, in that case, let him work for his parents. Wu Chun cannot be stopped. The subordinate stammered, he's still a child, he can't do heavy work. The 6-year-old Hanju looked at Tai Lao in confusion. I'll do whatever I can, it's better than starving outside. He recalled everything he had experienced, slowly describing how Tai Lao made him do various tasks. But over the years, Tai Lao had never harmed him, and instead, he provided Hanju with plenty of food. He even taught him, though this education made Hanju show an extremely displeased expression. He used to dislike Tai Lao, but it was precisely because of him that Hanju became who he is now. He thought quietly. Perhaps the path of cultivation is also a kind of fate, and some people pass by quickly, leaving only sorrow. Thinking of this, Hanju raised his head and looked at the person across from him. Senior sister, please continue cultivating. If one day you're no longer here, junior brother really doesn't know. Upon hearing this, Chang Yu and I turned her head in surprise to look at him. She smiled and teased Hanju, junior brother, you stink. I thought you didn't have me in your heart at all. Then, Chang Yu and I said, I'm going back to cultivate, trying to spend a little more time walking the cultivation path with you. After a while, she left, and Hanju remained standing outside the cave, silent. He gently raised his head and took a deep breath, as if trying to calm his emotions. Then, Hanju turned and left, revealing a stone tablet with the words Tai Lao carved on it. The stone tablet was surrounded by a glowing light. I hope you can reincarnate into a good family. Time passed slowly, and more than a decade had gone by in the blink of an eye. Even without the aid of pills, all 6 spiritual roots, except for the earth and wood roots, had reached the 9th layer of the golden core stage, and his strength was getting closer to the nascent soul. Approaching his 100th birthday, the system activated a new feature. Hanju looked at the system in confusion. Suddenly, it rang, congratulations, you have turned 100 years old. Activating trial model feature. Trial model, you can set the cultivation level and strength of opponents, test and replicate the strength of all creatures within a 100-mile radius. The battle result will not affect your real body or mental state and can be repeated countless times. After reading this, he excitedly shouted, trial model? I don't have to suffer the side effects of being injured. This is amazing. Without hesitation, Hanju clicked Activate Trial Model. He had always been unclear about his own strength, and now he could finally give it a try. Immediately, the system screen emitted a dazzling blue light, and Hanju was sucked into the system before he was ready. In the blink of an eye, Hanju was transported to a white space, and the system prompted, "Welcome to the trial model arena." It felt like a dream, and he asked himself, is this in my consciousness? Just as he was feeling confused, a screen suddenly appeared in front of him. The system displayed a list of characters related to Hanju and simulated the strength of the opponents. He murmured, fighting against myself feels strange, so let's try the strongest one. Then, he decided to choose Li Qingzi, Nascent Soul 8th Layer. A character exactly like the real person immediately appeared, and Hanju greeted, sect leader. In response, the character immediately noticed his presence. It immediately rushed toward him at the speed of light, and Hanju skillfully dodged, muttering to himself, so fast. Hanju leaped using the 7-layer cloud step while secretly cursing. This trial model has no martial ethics, starting the fight without any warning, and it's really fighting. He thought, I really can't hold back. He then concentrated his power and used the 3-clear absolute shadow sword. A huge beam of golden light shot from his hand toward the figure, causing an immediate explosion on the ground. After the explosion, smoke filled the entire area, and Hanju couldn't see anything. He nervously waited for the smoke to clear and was horrified to discover that the 3-clear absolute shadow sword had not broken the defense. The figure was still standing there, only its clothes were torn, and Hanju speculated, this golden body must be the Heavenly Gang golden body. It did not rest, but instead quickly charged toward Hanju. Hanju did not hesitate and decided to try using the 9 Dragons Exorcism Seal. A dazzling golden sphere flew out from Hanju's hand and directly landed on the opponent's head. Another loud bang, and this time the power was even stronger than before. Among the shattered earthen stones, both sides continuously attacked, not giving way. From the outside, 2 light rings, one cyan and one golden, could be seen constantly clashing. After a few moves, the figure was pushed back a little. Hanju commented, the 9 Dragons Exorcism Seal is not simple, but it can only push the sect leader back. It can't defeat him. For an 8th layer nascent soul cultivator, it's still too forced. At this moment, the system suddenly appeared beside him. Do you want to adjust the opponent's strength? The adjustable range is from 8th layer nascent soul to 1st layer chi refining. Seeing this, Hanju furrowed his brows and thought, the trial model is getting more interesting. At this time, in Yuqing's sect, a stuttering voice came from the main hall, it's impossible, right? Dao Lei asked loudly in disbelief, is this true? Li Qingzi confirmed, very accurate. Duan Tongtian successfully transcended his tribulation last month and is now stabilizing. His transformation stage cultivation. Upon hearing this, everyone began discussing, feeling unprepared. Jingxi suddenly remembered to ask, where is the master? Hasn't he reached the transformation stage yet? The path to transformation should be close, right? He retorted, no, that's just a divine ability. Transformation is very difficult. Dao Lei suggested, why don't we ask for help? Can we still ask for help? Li Qingzi answered coldly, I have already asked for help from all the righteous sects, but no one has responded yet. Ji Quan fell into silence for a moment, then said, if only the ancestor were here. His strength in the mid-transformation stage is powerful, but he's been gone for many years without returning. We can't find him, so it is what it is. Then, I'll deal with Duan Tongtian together with the Grand Elder. Everyone was shocked by this statement, and Jingxi hurriedly stopped him. Li Qingzi said helplessly, there's no way. With your current cultivation, anyone who goes up will die. He thought, let's not mention Duan Tongtian for now, you can't even break my Heavenly Gang golden body. This is the strongest cultivation technique of Yuqing sect, no one can break it. Maybe I can fight him. At this moment, beside Hanju, Li Qingzi had already been completely defeated by him. Hanju broke through the Heavenly Gang golden body. The system notification appeared, today's battle record has just been achieved, killed a 5th layer nascent soul cultivator. A bystander's opinion, the trial model is so fun. Then, dark clouds began to gather in the sky, and the first lightning bolt appeared. Followed by countless lightning bolts intertwining, the entire sky was illuminated. Among those lightning bolts, they gathered into a huge bolt, heading straight for the ground. At this moment, the ground was Hanju, who was ready to receive it. The lightning struck his body, emitting a dazzling light. This was the moment of tribulation for a nascent soul cultivator. For 10 years, the 6 spiritual roots had fully reached the 9th layer of the golden core stage, with his cultivation perfected. Hanju muttered, I must break through to nascent soul. Just then, a call from his senior sister came from the foot of the mountain, and Hanju wondered, strange, the demon sect is about to attack, why is my senior sister here? Chang Yu and I hurried over, and upon seeing the scene in front of her, she wondered, has junior brother almost broken through to the golden core stage? She murmured, if the Qingming demon sect comes here, they will definitely interrupt junior brother's tribulation. Forcefully. Interrupting a tribulation is a great taboo, and junior brother will suffer backlash, endangering his life. Thinking of this, Chang Yu and I made up her mind, no, as his senior sister, I must protect him. But she suddenly thought, with my strength, it's difficult to protect him. Watching the lightning still striking the mountaintop, she thought, I can only wait until junior brother wakes up, then immediately take him back to the inner sect to seek refuge. Who told me I like him so much? I must protect the laws first. 10 days later. The demon sect began attacking Yuqing sect. Wherever they went, they massacred, with earth and stone flying everywhere. Chang Yu and I suddenly sensed the demonic aura and guessed, they've come. She looked toward the direction of the demonic aura, secretly pleased, it's the main peak. The demon sect's attack is just bypassing junior brother's cave. Chang Yu and I frowned, thinking, if I take him to the inner sect now, it would actually harm him. This is better, as long as junior brother doesn't leave the cave, he'll be safe. Then, she stepped on the tip of her sword and prepared to fly away, leaving behind a sentence, sorry, I'll go help the master first, I swear to live and die with him. Immediately, Chang Yu and I flew away on her sword, thinking, I hope junior brother won't come back. At this moment, Hanju successfully advanced to the nascent soul stage, and he sensed, this nascent soul stage is a bit domineering, even the 6 paths of reincarnation technique has broken through. The nascent soul stage is a barrier, its power communicates with heaven and earth, sensing the 5 elements and gaining supreme power. Therefore, all spiritual roots will merge into 6 elemental roots, forming a brand new and powerful spiritual energy. Hanju felt the 6-path spiritual energy floating in his palm. From then on, he could directly absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, no longer needing to rely on spiritual roots for cultivation. Just absorbing the 6-path spiritual energy for cultivation was far more efficient than before. System prompt. Congratulations on breaking through to the nascent soul realm. You have received a divine power reward. You chose the sword cultivator path and gained the sword Dao divine power, the heavenly pillar. Ghost sword. Seeing the number 998 years old on the system, he couldn't help but feel shocked. At this moment, the system suddenly issued a red alert. The Yuqing sect you are in is currently under attack by the Qingming demon sect. He was extremely surprised. What? The Qingming demon sect has started attacking? Could it be me? The system rang again, interrupting Hanju's words. He didn't expect it to have another reminder. The strongest cultivator of the Yuqing sect has been detected, Duan Tongtian, the leader of the Qingming demon sect, at the first level of the transformation god realm. Do you wish to activate the trial mode immediately? Seeing this, he muttered to himself, the Yuqing sect definitely won't hold up. Hanju reminded himself, stay calm. I could kill nascent soul realm cultivators when I was in the golden core realm, so I should be able to fight against those in the transformation god realm. He then decided, let's try fighting, and clicked to start the trial. At this moment, in the Yuqing sect, black smoke filled the surroundings. Seeing they couldn't resist, the disciples shouted and retreated. Zhang Renma, leading the demon army, shouted, Chow Chow. Come out and die. Not coming out? Have you already run away? His lone eye was murky, and he constantly sneered, the people of Yuqing sect are really a bunch of useless trash. Zhang Renma looked toward the distant red thunder pillar and muttered, the leader should be finishing soon. He then raised his voice and ordered, all disciples, listen up. Kill them all. Loot everything. They immediately complied. He added, if you can't find Chow Chow, then use the Yuqing sect disciples to sacrifice to the souls of my disciples in the sky. At this moment, Hanju's trial ended. 1 minute after the battle began, he found it extremely unbelievable and fell into deep thought for a long time. After a while, he asked uncertainly, "Is Duantongtian really this week?" From the black cloud vortex, a red thunder pillar suddenly struck down, and the mountain peak was gradually weakening. A skull, carrying a terrifying red aura, flew toward Li Qingzi and the Grand Elder, making them unable to withstand the pressure. Soon after, a figure gradually appeared, and that person laughed loudly, "Give up." Upon closer inspection, they recognized it was Duantongtian. He said contemptuously, "If you kneel and beg for mercy, perhaps I can make your suffering a little less." Li Qingzi gritted his teeth and said word by word, "Duantongtian. Even if the disciples of Yuqing sect die, they will never bow to the demon sect." After saying this, he jumped up and rushed toward Duantongtian, but he didn't dodge. He only sighed, "Too slow." Li Qingzi was immediately sent flying. The Grand Elder speculated, the skull behind him has innate black magnetism. Once the spiritual power is absorbed by it, it is immediately neutralized. Only with that treasure can he weaken us. He struggled to stand up and cursed, "What do we do now?" In the back, Shiquan painfully stood up from a pile of rubble, holding his hands. At this moment, she couldn't help but sigh, worriedly thinking of her disciple, Hanju. This kid should be in seclusion. I hope no one finds his cave. As for those few, I'm sorry. As a master, I wasn't able to protect you, I can only go ahead. Shiquan muttered sadly to himself. Duantongtian spoke, the grievances of several hundred years should come to an end. Seeing her suddenly appear, he was somewhat surprised. Then, Duantongtian showed a lewd smile and said, "Such a pity, such a beauty." Over there, Mark Chu was forced into a desperate situation and had to jump into the abyss. Someone behind shouted, "She jumped. Below is the abyss, keep chasing, don't let her escape." She felt helpless, as after escaping the chase, her spiritual energy had been exhausted. "I can't even control my sword now." Under the pursuit of the demonic sect, Mark Chu thought she was doomed. She made up her mind, "I won't let them have their way, even if I die." At this moment, she thought of Hanju and muttered, "If I had cultivated like him, it wouldn't be like this now. Will I meet him again in the next life?" Just as she closed her eyes thinking she was about to die, Hanju suddenly appeared. "Miss Mark, what are you doing down here?" Mark Chu opened her eyes wide, barely believing what she saw. Hanju was floating in the air, holding her. After a long time, she stuttered, "Senior brother Han." But then, Mark Chu asked a few strange questions in confusion. "Are we dead? Did we go to heaven?" While you were still confused, the system prompted, "Mark Chu's favorability towards you has increased, now at 5.5 stars. Hanju took her to the place where Mark sought revenge and said, "Brother Mark, I finally found you." He looked up at Hanju flying over and thought, "I can't believe it." Then, without hesitation, he handed Mark Chu over to Mark for revenge, instructing, "Take care of her, I need to go to the main peak." Watching Hanju's figure gradually disappear, he wondered, how exactly did Brother Han cultivate? Mark Chu had yet to come to her senses and asked, "Are you also in the sky?" Mark for revenge ignored her and instead pondered, 3 golden core cultivators were attacking me, and all of them were easily killed by Senior Brother Han. Hanju hurriedly flew away, feeling an increasingly powerful aura and thought, the situation isn't optimistic. The transformation into God aura is at the main peak, it's my fault for being too late. At this moment, he passed by Yuwu Peak, which caught his attention. Hanju immediately approached to observe and found a group of black-robed demonic cultivators surrounding several senior brothers and sisters. Meng He turned back and instructed, "Junior sister, wait for us to open a bloody path, then take the new disciples and escape." Upon hearing this, Chang Yuanai was shocked and turned to stop them. Yang Le solemnly said, "My decision is final, even if we die. But before I die, I will send you all to hell." As soon as the words were spoken, they were ready to charge, but then they noticed 3 strange bolts of lightning. Seeing this scene, Chang Yuanai sharply guessed, 3 bolts of lightning? Could it be? The yellow light came down in the shape of swords, descending rapidly from the sky. They flew around a group of demonic cultivators, and wherever they passed, someone died. In just a moment, dozens of demonic cultivators were slain. Chan Yuanai and the others were shocked, their mouths wide open, staring at the scene in disbelief. Then, the yellow lightning flew away again, mercilessly. Chang Yuanai trembled and shouted, "Junior brother." At this moment, a threatening voice came from the woods, "I'll give you a chance." The man made a proposition, "Become my partner, come back to the Ming sect with me, and I will spare your life." He Hongchuan angrily replied, "Duan Tongtian killed my parents, I won't go back even if I die." Upon hearing this, the man immediately drew his sword and threatened, "If you refuse the drink, you'll be forced to drink the punishment. My sword is coated with poison." Just then, her gaze seemed to have discovered something. He Hongchuan suddenly shouted excitedly, "Husband." The man mistakenly thought she had agreed and smugly said, "Did you agree? I knew you'd recognize my worth." The man then smugly laughed, "I told you, if I wasn't forceful, how would you submit?" But he didn't realize Hanju had already appeared behind him, his gaze cold. The rustling of the leaves ceased as the killing god, Hanju, appeared. Everything went silent, and only He Hongchuan's voice could be heard, "Husband." The man who had previously teased her was already lying motionless on the ground. He Hongchuan was greatly shocked. That man was the second strongest among the core disciples of the demonic sect, yet he was defeated in one move. Turning around, Hanju solemnly warned, "Find a place to hide, it's not safe here anymore." He Hongchuan's face flushed, shyly reminding Hanju, "Husband, you must be careful too." At this point, the system prompted that He Hongchuan's favorability towards you had increased to 6 stars. Hanju cursed inwardly as he walked, "Damn this attraction and strength." On the other side, Duan Tongtian was arrogant beyond measure, mocking. "Is that all the strength the I Ching sect has? They hunted my demonic sect for hundreds of years. Now I have reached the transformation into God stage. Who dares to stop me?" Under the pressure from all sides and her injuries, Fairy Shiquan no longer had the strength to counterattack. In the distance, Li Qingzi had both arms torn off, unconscious and lying on a nearby rock. The elder also sat motionless, unable to move due to exhaustion. Duan Tongtian looked at them arrogantly and thought to himself, "Use up all the disciples of your sect, you deserve this. It will definitely help me improve my strength. At that time, the first sect, the Great Yan Dynasty, will belong to my demonic sect." He looked at the plaque of I Ching sect and shouted, "The 100-year foundation of I Ching sect, could it really be destroyed today? Destroyed here?" After speaking, he released his spiritual energy and crushed the plaque beneath his feet. Then, Duan Tongtian walked towards Fairy Shiquan step by step, filled with malice. He glared viciously and continued spreading despair, "You still won't give up? How many people do you think are still alive in I Ching sect?" Fairy Shiquan's gaze was firm, and she said clearly with wide eyes, "None." Duan Tongtian, enraged, his hand flashing with powerful spiritual energy, "This ungrateful girl, go to the Yellow Springs." The powerful spiritual energy was about to shoot towards Fairy Shiquan. Li Qingzi couldn't accept such a tragic situation and shouted out, as if he hoped he could take her place. Duan Tongtian's strike caused a huge explosion. Under the blaze of heavenly fire, Hanju immediately used the 7th level illusory step to save Fairy Shiquan. He calmly greeted, "Master. Are you all right?" Fairy Shiquan had not recovered from the feeling of impending death and stared at the disciple who should not have been here, confused. Li Qingzi sighed in fear, "Junior sister, you have a good disciple." The elder thought Hanju was somewhat cute, such a pity, he has to die here too. But suddenly, Shiquan slapped Hanju. She sternly rebuked, "What are you doing here? Go away. Be obedient. The farther you go, the better. From now on, you are no longer a disciple of I Ching sect." Hanju stood there, like an abandoned child, reaching out to grab her, "I came for you, master." Fairy Shiquan dodged and anxiously pushed him away. Duan Tongtian mocked from the side, "A 9th heaven cultivator dares to come here? Kid, you really have guts. If you kneel and kowtow 3 times to me, I will spare your life and give you a chance to join the Qingming demonic sect." Suddenly, the system gave Hanju 2 options. 1. Listen to your master and escape, and after success, you will receive a magic weapon. 2. Successfully kill the transformation into God and save Iching sect, and receive a bottle of top-tier pills. Hanju thought, fortunately, there's the trial mode, or I would definitely choose to escape. He turned to Duan Tongtian and said, I don't need the opportunity, I came here to kill you. Duan Tongtian couldn't help but laugh loudly, kid, you're truly arrogant. Hanju calmly walked towards him, even bitter cultivation has its passionate moments. Just as he was thinking about killing the false leader, someone suddenly shouted, Chow chow. So you're here too. Zhang Renma appeared behind Hanju, his knife at his neck, die. The elder, seeing him suddenly appear, froze in fear. The captain, Tongtian, laughed loudly, I don't need to take action myself, with the strength of the demon elder, he can crush him. I will enjoy your despair before you die. As soon as he spoke, Zhang Renma was struck and sent flying, sweeping across his face. When the man hit the ground, dust was kicked up, and Captain Tongtian was stunned, his eyes wide open. Li Qingqing said in surprise, instantly defeating a nascent soul? This is simply impossible. The people around also widened their eyes, shocked by what they were seeing. Fairy Shiquan quickly recognized the familiar spiritual energy and looked surprised. She turned to search and saw Hanju standing in the thick spiritual energy, the source of that power. He slightly raised his brow and provocatively said, Are you ready? I'll send you on your way. Captain Tongtian's eyes flashed with red light as he sneered, Do you think that after defeating the demon elder and suffering a little, you are qualified to fight me? The smoke slowly dissipated, revealing Zhang Renma kneeling and sitting up. He muttered angrily, Insult. Such an insult. He yelled crazily as he charged toward Hanju, I will kill you. Zhang Renma summoned a lantern, using a magic item called the Exquisite Kill Heavenly Demon Lantern. The elder shouted in horror, Young friend. Step back. This magic item can refine souls. Without hesitation, he unleashed the technique Kill Heaven Win Soul Demon, shouting, I will use your souls to honor my disciple for 3 days. Disciple, do you see this? I am avenging you. Hanju coldly said, he will see you soon. He lightly pointed and said, Sanqing Juing sword, go. Zhang Renma's half-body instantly disappeared, and the shattered and fell, making a crisp sound. The elder and Li Qingqing were too shocked to speak, their eyes wide in disbelief. Captain Tongtian was unafraid, his battle spirit rising. He praised, to be able to kill a sect elder at such a young age. Hanju looked up at him and said, Now, do I have the qualifications? Captain Tongtian greatly admired him, You're powerful enough to hold an elder position in my sect. Why not come to my demonic sect? Wealth, fame, partners, and spiritual halls, I can give you all. What do you think? Just as he looked up, the Sanqing Juing sword was already flying towards him. A spiritual energy shield appeared in front of Captain Tongtian, and even the corner of his robe wasn't damaged. Hanju's expression darkened, alert, the Sanqing Juing sword was blocked. Captain Tongtian showed no concealment and slowly said, Behind me is the innate black magnet. This treasure can absorb spiritual energy and is immune to most attacks. Unless your spiritual energy exceeds mine, you will never touch me. He began to shout, I'm giving you a chance, it's just that your fate is extraordinary. Do you really think I would cherish talent? The world lacks nothing but talent. Why are there so few geniuses in this world? It's because those who rely on their skills survive, while everyone else dies halfway, just like you. Captain Tongtian's pressure spread out, shaking everything around him. The armies of the righteous and demonic paths were still fighting, bearing the pressure from it, unable to stop and maintain their physical stability. Zhou Fan, who was engaged in a fierce battle, was also affected by this terrifying pressure. On the mountaintop, the closest elders felt an even greater pressure. Is this the power of a complete transformation into a divine soul? Duan Tongtian flew into the air to absorb the spirit and demonic energy. Since you're so stubborn, I'll let you taste the pain. Don't you want to protect the Yuling sect? I am standing right in front of you. Let the people of the Yuling sect die in front of you. Let's see how you protect the Yuling sect. Hanju tightly gripped the flickering Qilin sword, enough talk. Are you done? What I mean is, do you have any last words? He raised his sword, and the sword's light reflected above his head. He sneered and replied, leave the last words to you. A force rendered Duan Tongtian speechless, unable to utter any words. His mind was filled with countless thoughts at this moment. What's going on? Something is blocking me. I can't feel anything. My body can't move. What kind of trick is this? This was the secret technique of the Tianchu ghost sword, which Hanju had just used. The brilliance of the technique made everything blur, and the counterforce of the sword strike made the air seem to split. Fairy Chuanshan's cold expression was shattered, and she showed a look of surprise. Li Changzi and the elder were dumbfounded, trembling and murmuring, Duan Tongtian is dead. His nascent soul was slashed, transforming into a divine soul. The elder exclaimed in surprise, no wonder it wasn't a matter of divine powers that time. He's just too strong. This person must be kept by the Yuling sect. Hanju was carefully observing. That person only destroyed his body, and the six paths soul absorption technique. Sensed his soul fleeing. This means he still has a chance to recover. This hidden danger must be eliminated. The battle ended, and the red sky was replaced by the evening sunlight. Such a beautiful scene, yet no one cared. Everyone was busy gathering to discuss Hanju. White smoke spread, and amidst the broken items, Duan Tongtian's soul trembled and hid. Fortunately, I managed to escape in the chaos. No one should have noticed. Reluctantly, he said, he's just a nascent soul. How could this be? Who exactly is this person? What kind of immortal is he? Hanju suddenly appeared behind him, replying sternly, I am Zhao Zilong of Changshan. The century-long conflict between the Yuling sect and the Qingming demon sect should end today. Six paths soul absorption. Under the divine light of the technique, Duan Tongtian cursed unwillingly, Zhao Zilong. Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you go. The demon beast sect won't let you go either. His divine soul finally vanished along with the light, filled with unwillingness. The life of Duan Tongtian, who had transformed into a divine soul, ended like this. Hanju withdrew his spiritual power, puzzled. What is the demon beast sect? The system reliably notified. You have eliminated the divine soul and obtained a bottle of top-tier spirit pill, the mind pill. Zhao Hao has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred level is 6 stars. He was puzzled. Who is Zhao Hao? It is said that Zhao Hao's power is at the 2nd level of the Void Realm. He hates you immensely and wishes to extract your bones and refine your soul. Current hatred level is 5 stars. Hanju felt annoyed after reading it. I should have known this old man would cause trouble. He then thought, 2nd level of the Void Realm. He was worried in his heart, I definitely can't defeat him. Even reaching the Divine Soul Realm now is difficult. Jingxi anxiously called out to everyone, look. The innate black particle seems very unusual. Everyone looked over and was shocked to see the skull, its eyes as red as blood, emitting a stream of greenish-black energy. From that black energy, a red ghost emerged, letting out a maniacal laugh. Duan Tongtian is really useless, can't even delay time. Looks like I'll have to find the next one. Fellow Taoist, truly a divine power, slaying a divine soul with a nascent soul, you've really opened my eyes. As Hanju raised his hand to form a seal and prepare to strike, the ghost provocatively said, it's futile. I am a great cultivator at the Void Realm. Your divine powers can't kill my nascent soul. But if Duan Tongtian had delayed a little more, I wouldn't just be recovering these. These words terrified those around them. Void Realm? Who exactly are you? Slowly, he introduced himself. I am Zhao Hao, an elder from the Demon Beast sect in the northern continent. I've been planning for years, but I didn't expect this change. I'll remember this grudge. Hanju squinted. So, Duan Tongtian was just stalling for time. It was all for you? Zhao Hao impatiently replied, of course. This useless man told me that no one in the Yuling sect is a match for him, and yet he still. Before he could finish, Hanju interrupted, trying to frame me? I can tell your nascent soul is different from an ordinary person's. Perhaps your true body was damaged, or your physical form was destroyed. Zhao Hao remained unflustered. You don't deserve to know, I just didn't feel like bullying a junior. Zhao Hao began to gather energy, leaving a message. I will send this information back to the Demon Beast sect. Wait for the sect to seek revenge. He then disappeared. Li Qianzi speculated, no wonder the Qingming demon sect ambushed the 10,000 demons map. It turns out this guy from the Demon Beast sect planned it all. The elder beside him responded, from now on, the Qingming sect should be expelled. Li Qianzi turned to Hanju for help. The task now is to completely eliminate the demonic cultivators' strongholds within the sect. I leave this to you. Hanju was carefully attending to Shichuan. Sorry, master, I'm useless. Let me heal you. Li Qianzi shouted from outside, Han, your master's injury isn't serious. He firmly rejected, master is the most important, if you want to go, you can go yourselves. But in his heart, he thought, what a joke, if I eliminate the entire demon sect alone, my name will surely resound everywhere. Shichuan smiled happily after hearing this, feeling cared for by her disciple. The people around them also envied. Fairy Shichuan has a disciple who is both smart and caring for her. Dao Lei was puzzled again. What kind of person is this fellow? With your cultivation, how could you be a disciple trained by the Yuling sect? Hanju calmly replied, meeting doesn't always mean knowing each other. Just know that I am currently a disciple of the Yuling sect, and I won't harm the Yuling sect. The people around him understood, thinking that he had matters he couldn't speak of. Just then, the demonic cultivators arrived, looking for their sect leader. The situation made him so angry that he couldn't utter a word. Li Qianzi had to shout, the demon sect leader is dead, all disciples of Yuling sect, listen up, kill all the demonic cultivators. This sentence frightened them into fleeing in panic. As they fled, they spread the message, the sect leader is dead. This only caused more chaos in the demonic cultivator ranks. The Yuling sect charged forward with great momentum, determined to kill all the demonic cultivators. The whole city echoed with battle cries, and the demonic cultivators were terrified, fleeing for their lives. Those who stayed thought, the Qingming demon sect will definitely suffer heavy losses. This grudge will make them never dare to attack Yuling sect again. Li Qianzi continued to announce, elders, I'm sure everyone present is aware of Hanju's strength. He boldly declared, based on his performance this time, from now on, Hanju will be the vice sect leader of Yuling sect. Since I can no longer break through, the future of Yuling sect will rely on the younger generation. In his heart, he thought, I can't let this person leave the sect. He then asked, Hanju's potential is immense. And his strength is fully sufficient to take this position. No one should have any objections, right? At this point, Hanju spoke up in opposition, making Li Qianzi so angry he nearly blew his top. He unhappily said, I only want to focus on cultivation. Being the vice sect leader is too exhausting. How would I have time to cultivate? These words immediately silenced Li Qianzi. The elder had to step in to defuse the situation, saying, then let him become an honorary elder, enjoying the privileges of the vice sect leader, but unless the sect faces a catastrophe, he should not be disturbed. Hanju happily gave a thumbs up in his heart, as expected, the elder is wise. He pretended to reluctantly accept, then asked, the person just now was at the Void Realm. Could it be that he is? The elder confirmed, just as you suspected, he only has his nascent soul left. Duan Tongtian can at most help him recover his physical form, giving him a chance to break through. So, to delay time, he must have used some secret technique to absorb Yuling sect's vitality and spiritual energy. The battle had just subsided, and the skull in the sky slowly disappeared. He continued, also, since the northern continent is so far from us, even if they rush here, the Righteous Alliance will not let them act recklessly. Hanju couldn't help but worry in his heart, how can I be at ease? What should I do? I should hurry and break through to the Void Realm. Within the sect, a mysterious legend about a great power began to circulate. Shichuan stood in the main hall and announced to everyone, this time, Yuling sect faced danger. But fortunately, Elder Zhanshan slew the divine soul, resolving the crisis. Upon hearing this news, everyone began discussing the matter of Zhanshan. Unlike the others present, Hanju's face showed confusion. At this moment, Shichuan dismissed the crowd and called Hanju to stay. Everyone obeyed the order and left. Only Hanju and Shichuan remained, both momentarily silent, the atmosphere somewhat awkward. Suddenly, she spoke up, "Have you never thought about it?" He was surprised and asked, "Thought about what?" She sighed and said, "Who exactly are you? What is your purpose in coming to the Qingyun sect?" Li Qingzi might not care, but as your master, I must make things clear. No wonder you've never needed my guidance. Should I now call you Han Daoist friend? These words made Hanju a bit awkward, and he smiled bitterly. Master, there's no need for that. You should already have some idea about my background from junior brother Tai. Are you doubting my qualifications? Shichuan questioned him unhappily. Even if your qualifications are outstanding, where did those divine abilities and techniques come from? He helplessly said, I can't blame you for thinking this way. A nascent soul slaying a god transformation cultivator is indeed very unusual. No. One would believe it if anyone else said it, and after hiding for so long, receiving top-tier resources, any fool could tell there's a problem. Hanju had no choice but to clarify, then I'll tell you, but don't say anything outside. Shichuan nodded in agreement. He began, once upon a time, there was an innocent child who loved drinking beast milk and lived carefree every day. One day, he found a ring buried under a lightning-struck willow tree. A child who wasn't greedy for wealth gave the ring to his uncle. Unknowingly, inside the ring was an immortal. The immortal greatly admired him and gave him an opportunity. The immortal said, I see your bones are strong, rare in 1,000, and meeting you is fate. I will give you a yellow-level cultivation method. Hanju continued, later, the immortal often taught me techniques through dreams and said I would become an immortal. Or a god, but my fate was difficult, so I had to cultivate in seclusion every day and avoid causing trouble. He thought to himself, the more I make up, the harder it is to believe. Master definitely won't believe this. However, Shichuan calmly said, I see, there has indeed been a similar case before. Hanju was surprised by her words. She continued, if that's the case, why did you dare to step forward at that time? Qingyun sect has never treated you well, and I believe you wouldn't consider it your home. Hanju said seriously, that's true, but I've lived for over 100 years, and there are very few people who truly care about me. Luckily, they're all in Qingyun sect, and the most important ones even want to live and die with Qingyun sect. At that moment, the system notification rang, Shichuan's favorability has increased again. She gently asked, so, what are your plans now? Will you continue to close yourself off for cultivation? Hanju respectfully answered, who knows when that demon at the god transformation realm will show up? I have to seize the time to get stronger. Shichuan agreed and allowed him to leave. He then returned to his cave dwelling to continue his secluded cultivation. Hanju recalled how the immortals used to teach him with disdain, and now he always said, Elder Zhanshan, 2 words, thank you, benefactor. He lay on the hammock, relaxed and completely satisfied. Indeed, power has always been revered throughout history. It's proven that seclusion was the right choice. If I hadn't cultivated for these years, surviving now would be difficult. I can only say that success always belongs to those who are prepared. From now on, I'll have to cultivate desperately. At this point, Chang Yueqi walked over and happily greeted, Junior brother, I'm here. She excitedly said, the sect has collected many rare treasures for you to help increase the spiritual energy in your cave dwelling. I'm here to help you plant them. We also need to adjust the spirit gathering formation. Hanju, not paying much attention, replied, sorry to trouble you, senior sister. Chang Yue smiled and said, stop making fun of me. You're already the elder Zhanshan now. How can I still call you junior brother? At this point, the system also notified that Chang Yue's favorability had increased again. She was suddenly pushed against the wall, her eyes wide open, her face full of surprise. Hanju braced himself against the wall, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth. As long as senior sister keeps diligently cultivating, you will always be my senior sister. Chang Yuer blushed awkwardly, her voice hesitant. I am still cultivating, but how can it compare to junior brother's progress? He softly whispered in her ear, it's okay, senior sister, I have a request. She shyly lowered her voice and said, speak quickly, I will surely satisfy your request. Hanju flashed a sly smile, thinking to himself, I've been waiting for this sentence. He made his request, then, senior sister, could you set up another formation in my cave to prevent fire, theft, and also protect me from senior sister? Thank you. These words left her speechless, unable to say anything. Over the next 3 years, the Qingyun sect actively prepared. The sect leader, along with the disciples from the 10 peaks, broke through the Qingming demon sect, while the 8 peaks defended the sect. Under the Qingyun sect's offensive, high-level forces like the Divine Palace and Zhang Jinren's demon sect gradually fell. Corpses piled up like mountains, rivers of blood flowed, the scene was terrifying. The Qingming demon sect, which had been causing trouble for many years, was finally destroyed, shaking the entire cultivation world. The fame of Qingyun sect reached unprecedented heights, and the name of the elder Zhanshan spread throughout the cultivation world, and everyone knew that name. Hanju stood at a distance, watching the setting sun slowly extinguish, feeling that his cultivation had improved again. Clearly, the task had been completed, and he soon received the precious reward from the system. The sky was filled with dark clouds, thunder roared, lighting up the top of the gate with a strange green glow. The lightning was so intense, it seemed as though it wanted to devour the entire dark sky. Below in the Qingyun sect, all the Taoist friends had gathered, all thinking, the demon sect is going to attack again. Li Qingzi turned to the Supreme Elder and asked, Master, what do you think? He calmly replied, don't worry, I used the Qi observation technique, and the source is from the place where Hanju is. After hearing this, everyone thought, then there's no problem. At that moment, the sky unleashed an extremely powerful spell, named Great Sky Thunder Explosion. It could turn the thunder spiritual energy between heaven and earth into a thunderstorm that destroyed the entire world, with an enormous range of damage. The thunder struck the earth, and a loud explosion sounded, accompanied by the burning of the surrounding soil and stones. Hanju stood there, laughing loudly, finally, some large-scale damage, I love it. Let's see how I can cast thunder 5 times. Just then, a voice came, Elder Han, are you free? He noticed Li Qingzi standing below, stopped, and turned to look at him, asking, Sect Leaderly, what's the matter? Li Qingzi answered cheerfully from below, I have something I'd like to discuss with you. If Elder Han has any requests, feel free to tell me. I've already spoken to the other elders. Your small matter is a big matter for Qingyun sect. Hanju bluntly replied, there's nothing much to request, I just want to live quietly. Li Qingzi looked around and said, now, it seems this cave is a bit small? Hanju calmly said, I've gotten used to it. He suddenly suggested, why don't you move to the main peak to cultivate, Elder Han? It's spacious and comfortable there. Hanju still insisted on refusing, there's no need, thank you Sect Leaderly. Li Changzi then said, since that's the case, there's no need to insist. As for the innate cave, the sect will try its best to provide the best resources for you. Hanju was surprised, such a good thing? The elder whispered, there's one more thing, would Elder Han be willing to take on a disciple? He awkwardly asked, take a disciple? The elder continued, this person has outstanding talent. Elder Han, you just need to guide him when you have time. When he grows up, he will also be able to show respect to you. Hanju was at a loss for words upon hearing this. At this moment, the system also issued a prompt. Innate fated person detected. This information surprised him. At that moment, a young man appeared, and the system immediately introduced him. His name is Yang Tiandong, and he possesses monster blood. He is half human and half monster, with extraordinary talent. However, in his youth, he lost control and transformed into a monster, injuring his fellow disciples. He was imprisoned by the Qingming demon sect, but was fortunately rescued by the Qingyun sect. Upon hearing this, he immediately thought, is this another protagonist setup? The young man quickly said respectfully, "Greetings, Elder Zhanshan." Hanju awkwardly replied, "I can take you as a disciple, but the cultivation method given to you by the Qingyun sect is your choice. I will only be responsible for teaching you techniques and divine powers." Li Changzi agreed. "That's best." He took out a box from his robe and handed a token to Hanju, saying, "There's no issue with the cultivation method, but if it's a supreme technique, he needs to accumulate contributions to obtain it. Please accept these tokens, which represent the elder status. You can give them to your disciples in the future." Hanju saw the box full of tokens and immediately broke into a cold sweat, thinking, "Is this to make me keep accepting disciples in the future?" Li Changzi continued, "All right, I will leave now. Master and disciple, take your time to talk." Hanju turned to look at the disciple who had been bowing with his hands clasped. "I have already figured out your background. Your name is Yang Tiandong." This sentence made him widen his eyes in surprise. Hanju continued, "You are half human and half monster, and you were imprisoned by the Qingming demon sect, correct?" Yang Tiandong recalled Li Changzi's earlier advice, "Your identity is special. Remember, don't tell him about your past, understood?" Now he was surprised and thought, "He can even guess my past?" Hanju smiled and said, "From today, you are my disciple." Yang Tiandong admired him and said, "As expected of master, you could figure this out." "I admire you, master." The system prompted again. His favorability toward Hanju increased by 3 points. He happily thought to himself, "This really feels like a joke. I have the system, I know everything." He then threw a token to Yang Tiandong, saying, "All right, take this token and find a place to cultivate." Yang Tiandong immediately obeyed the order and did as instructed. At this moment, Yang Tiandong appeared downcast and spoke up with a request. Hanju saw his demeanor and turned around, asking with curiosity what he wanted. He said, "My father left behind a profound supreme technique, but it can only be cultivated after reaching the divine transformation realm. I am foolish by nature, I humbly request master's guidance." After speaking, he took out a beautiful orange-red feather. As soon as he saw this feather, Hanju was startled. "This is..." Hanju focused and thought to himself, "The divine sense is blocked by this feather. To obtain the supreme skills within, you need a consciousness of the divine transformation realm to unlock it. Wait here." He turned and left, leaving a sentence, "I'll take it back to study." Cultivating the Tao requires willpower and hard practice. After you've cultivated spiritual power for 10 years, I'll teach you the spells. He quickly followed the command. He suddenly found something strange and asked, 10 years? But seeing that his master was unconcerned, he could only helplessly say, "It's fine, disciple will go and cultivate." 10 years passed in the blink of an eye, and the scene was still the same, tranquil and bright under the sunlight. Hanju was in closed-door cultivation, with a plan already in mind, after 10 years, breaking through to the divine transformation realm from the 4th stage of the nascent soul realm shouldn't be far. I can prepare for that now. Suddenly, he remembered something. "I wonder how my disciple is doing now." Yang Tiandong had been standing by, trembling as he said, "Master, you've finally awakened." He had been sitting still for 10 years, almost getting hemorrhoids. Hanju tentatively asked, "Zhubai broke through from the 1st stage to the 6th stage, not bad, he does have some strength." He started to inquire, "How has my disciple's cultivation been these 10 years?" Yang Tiandong reported, "Master, disciple has diligently cultivated over the past 10 years and has gained quite a lot, even comprehending some principles." This made Hanju furious. "I've been in closed-door cultivation for so many years and still haven't comprehended anything." He yawned long and said tiredly, "Since that's the case, you can go out and complete a task." Yang Tiandong excitedly asked, "Can I really go out?" "That's great. What task is it?" Hanju casually gave the order. "I remember the sect has contribution tasks every month. You can go and be the first, then come back." Hearing this, he was stunned, his mouth open in surprise. He was kicked out of the cave, feeling depressed and thinking, "First place every month. Oh my god, when will I finish this?" Hanju was alone in the cave, staring at the red feather. finally got rid of that kid. Actually, there's no need to wait for the divine transformation, I can open it now. I've prepared for this day for 10 full years. Raising my cultivation to enhance my divine sense was a small matter. The most important thing is relying on something, divine sense pills, which are specifically used to enhance divine sense. He opened the bottle of divine sense pills and said, I didn't expect everything to go according to my plan. This pill has 9 pills in total. The more you take, the stronger the effect. People in the nascent soul realm who take it can have the divine sense of the divine transformation realm. This pill can increase divine sense by 10 times. Let me see what kind of thing you really are. The feather began to emit smoke, and the consciousness inside slowly began to appear. It started to emit a strong light, enveloping the surrounding space, including Hanju.